Hey, here we be. The I was gonna maybe title us the rule of two. It just doesn't feel appropriate for that. It's not really what it is. It's just a chat.
Yes,
Welcome everybody to a good old let's talk about all the things Cinema Squad live chat. I'm
exactly,
here.
exactly.
I'm
I'm almost
I'm
tempted to mute because the kids are going wild in the background here. Maybe can you hear anybody? Can you hear madness in the background?
no, so you must have some phenomenal equipment because it's blocking it all
Yeah,
out.
you can see from the way I'm glitching back and forth, my phenomenal equipment is going at 10 right now. All right, then
Top
I'll just
notch.
thank you so much for being here, man, and thank you for introducing us. I'm happy to be here, and yeah, I guess the main two things we're going to be talking about in Marvel talk is going to be Daredevil and Fantastic Four, and then we're going to go into a whole bunch of Star Wars stuff just to let people know up front.
Yeah, there's a lot that's been going on lately, a lot that we can catch up on. It's been a minute since we've been on here. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel weird asking because we should know this. It's been since the Rubber Duckies, for crying out loud, right?
Sadly, yes, and even for me, um, I don't get to do videos as often as I'd like to, and I've done one live stream. Shout outs to Have Cheetah Will View with Patrick. So I've done one live stream since then. So basically, yeah, unfortunately for you, yeah, last time I've seen you has been Rubber Duckies, but no matter what, I know I'll see you again on the next Rubber Duckies because you're gonna be doing it until you're 90.
That's right. We've signed contracts. Our souls are already taken, by the good old Rubber Duckies. We got no choice. But no, man, I'm very happy to go ahead and get this going here because again, a lot of exciting stuff to go ahead and talk about. And I guess without further ado, to go ahead and start to dive on into some things. Right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Marvel has had at least a decent amount going on. Star Wars even more, but we're going to get to that later. So in the meantime, we've got at least first up on the docket, we've got our first full-blown trailer. Not a teaser now, full-blown trailer for Fantastic Four. So with this, I think a lot of people are feeling maybe like we're getting a little bit more of an idea of what's going on with this film and, getting a chance to get just a grasp of things. But before I say anything, I'm super curious. We literally mentioned right before going live, like we don't really know either of our thoughts on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's actually
what's
what makes it exciting in a
what's
way,
your
right?
main takeaways, man? Like when you saw that trailer, how did you feel? Were you excited about it? Was there anything that maybe you weren't too much looking forward to?
Okay, so my initial thing was let's just start with the title, First Steps. So I will say I wasn't thrilled with that title at first. However, now I think it's clear we're going with the pregnancy thing, and I guess we see the relevancy for that title. So First Steps. Okay, so I'm okay with that now. There's a couple of things that have I've slowly become like they've won me over on it a little bit, at least for now. The big thing here, I think maybe for a lot of people, whether you like it or not, is the Silver Surfer thing. I've even been won over in that in a sense for now, I'll say, because this is an alternate universe, so we're going to be getting a slightly different Silver Surfer, and it's very safe to assume we'll get the more iconic Silver Surfer in a future movie. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with most everything. I love the look of the Thing. I was a little bit worried about that because, going back to the old school Corman movie, which has its own charm, and then even going back to, what was it, like the early 2000s movies, we had Thing in like a practical suit. I love that kind of stuff. So it didn't look that bad to me. I'm all into that. However, we're in 2025 now, and I know that like the suit has to be CGI, or I should say there's no suit, it has to be CGI. That said, I think Thing looks awesome. The trailer showed a little bit of stretchy Mr. Fantastic. I feel like that's a nearly impossible thing to do and have it look good and not have it look ridiculous. But from the few seconds they showed, I thought that looked okay. So overall, I'm optimistic. We'll see what happens. That's I think my immediate vomit of thoughts.
That was it. Yeah, no, I mean a good bit of vomit, but I mean some entertaining vomit to listen to.
That's something you don't hear too often. But yeah,
some entertaining vomit.
Yes, hashtag good bit of vomit.
Yeah, things that don't normally go together. That's for sure. No, but hey, I can say that for a good chunk, if not maybe every one of your takeaways, I would definitely agree with. So,
Well,
um, I was definitely anticipating as far as to see a little bit more from this trailer because the teaser was at least enough to pique some curiosity. But
mhm.
that was it, right? Pique some curiosity, and I just mean that in a, not a horrible, but just not a overwhelmed way either. It was just kind of like, okay, okay. There's still some things that just don't sit well with me,
Mhm.
not in the sense of like what's shown in the film, casting. And I'm not even
Okay.
going to go into the one that you probably think I'm going to mention first because of I still just don't like Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. At
Okay.
the end of
Gotcha.
the day, I love him as an actor. I
Mhm.
really do. And I think what's nice about this is because I like him as an actor, although I still don't like him in the role, I'll probably still be able to just enjoy the performance overall. I mean, the dude he knows how to act, right? He knows how to deliver a performance.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that. Like, I feel good about that aspect of it. But again, it's just when it comes down to, do you see this person as this character? No, not even slightly.
Got
And I honestly am kind of bothered, as much as this may be nitpicking, by the fact that there couldn't even be minor adjustments made to just help make him look a little bit more like the character. For
Okay.
example, he's got kind of his like signature mustache. And for
Mhm,
the love
mhm,
of everything, is it really that difficult to just ask for one of two things? Either one, dude, shave the mustache.
mhm,
Just
mhm.
shave it. Why is that big of a deal? You got Christian Bale over here gaining hundreds of pounds and losing hundreds of pounds for different
Yeah.
roles. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And other people transforming themselves, and you can't just shave your mustache because I get it. It's funny to be like, come on, Chase, is it really that big of a deal that he has a mustache? Of course, we could easily say like, no, he could still be the character. But if we are trying to take someone who, let's be honest, doesn't really physically embody this person, right? He doesn't look like Reed Richards,
Mhm,
then
mhm.
you can, at the bare minimum, do certain things to help potentially make him look more like Reed Richards, like shave his damn mustache.
Okay.
Or if they would go with like a full beard mustache combination thing, then because I feel like there's been some iterations of him in the comics like that I've seen. So I feel like, all
Mhm,
right, well,
mhm,
maybe that would work a little bit more. And then
mhm.
the hair, the streaks of the hair. Is it just me? Maybe I haven't seen, but I don't see the white streaks, right?
I mean, if it's there, like now that you're mentioning it, if it's there, it's not prominent enough for me to have noticed. But then again, I don't even think I quite picked up on the mustache thing. But now it's bothering me since you said it. So I wish you hadn't said it. No, but I take your point about like, hey, it's just ideally let's have the characters look like they've looked in the books for decades now. Like, can we
Cool.
do that? Especially if it's a mustache thing. But that said, please don't CGI it. We saw what happened with poor Henry Cavill and trying to CGI it out after the fact. They're not going to do that. I'm joking, but don't do that, please. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
no, please,
Just
please.
just leave it. We'll go with it and pretend
That
it's
one
not.
time was enough. And that's the lesson learned, right? Just,
Oh my god,
No, but
nightmare.
all right. So, but getting off of that point there, because I at least had to throw that out there. It's just one of those where, again, like him as an actor, don't
Mhm.
like him as a character. And even after seeing more of him in this trailer, that is one thing I am just not excited about,
Not
right?
sold yet. Would you have rather had? Oh my god, I'm forgetting the actor's name from The Office, but we got him originally. And
John
what?
Krasinski,
Yeah, thank you. Would you have rather had him? Just curious.
100%.
Okay.
And I'm
Okay.
not trying to say he is the perfect, right? I'm not trying to blow that out of proportion. I think sometimes people are taking that to West Hell about how great he would have been in the role. Although I'm not at all going to be on the side of saying he wouldn't have been good. I think he
Mhm.
fit really, really well. I think the couple of scenes that we got of him in Multiverse of Madness, not like the whole movie was impressive, and not even like that whole scene that he was in was impressive, but him as the character
Yeah.
bought it. Like
That was
it's
that was like fan casting, right? Basically, and I loved
yeah,
it too. I agree with you. That was awesome for what it was. I mean, the only I guess a silver lining out of this is that by recasting Reed, like now we know like there's room to like recast people going forward, like which is going to be a thing that sadly inevitably will happen. So we can get used to like different actors literally playing like the same
oh yeah.
character. I guess like
Well,
now that's like kind of like officially established if it wasn't already. I mean, one way or the other, real life, we saw it with Black Panther will happen, and inevitably these characters will be recast. But yeah, I guess now that we're on that subject, it would have been nice to have seen him back.
Well, it's just yeah, the whole recasting thing is we don't even have to look at it like that. It's more so it's the multiverse.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So
know what I mean? We should, in all fairness, we as an audience should be desensitized to seeing multiple people play the same character at this point.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I will admit this: that's if they were to do the multiverse correctly, which I don't feel that they've been doing. I think they've been very
Okay.
minimally taking advantage of it every now and again.
Mhm.
But it's just across the board. There should have been way, 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 way more of that stuff going on if this were to be called a multiverse saga.
Mhm.
And yeah, and so anyway, but going back into it, I think John Krasinski could have been way better.
Mhm.
Still, like I said, final time mention it. Just not a fan of Pedro as Reed himself. Uh, to be fair with the rest of the cast, I'm on board.
Okay.
Not not so much sold on the female Silver Surfer, but that's just like not even because I'm sitting here going, I don't want a female Silver Surfer.
No, no, I
I
understand.
do I do think that they should have gone with Norrin Rad first. I will at least say that. I think for
Okay.
the very first introduction of this character to the MCU, right? Like they finally have the rights back to him. And your first opportunity to put him back on the big screen, and you're gonna go with Shala Ball as the Silver Surfer Surfette, I guess, if
Yeah,
you will. And
yeah.
I get it. Everybody could say, but it happened in the comics. I'm usually one of those people to say,
Mhm,
look,
mhm.
but it happened in the comics. I get it. I know it did. If I'm not mistaken, it happened twice. If I'm remembering this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there's just an alternate universe in the
Mhm.
comics where she's the Silver Surfer, I believe. And then I know for certain there was a moment where Norrin Rad gives Shalabal some of the power cosmic. The
Mhm.
circumstances around the situation I do not remember at all. But he like gives her some of the power cosmic, and they both are the Silver Surfer, like simultaneously for a short period of time. So okay, like right, I get it. That's a thing that happened. And then I can forgive it a little bit more because, like you said, it's an alternate universe. This is not the sacred timeline, that the rest of the MCU has been taking place in. So,
Exactly.
yes, it opens up the possibility that perhaps Norrin Rad is the Silver Surfer in the MCU. Nonetheless, like I said, I think the only thing that's like slightly off-putting, an emphasis on slightly, is
Yeah.
that this is the first time that Disney Marvel has gotten a chance to put him on the big screen, and then they decided to do what they do. And it was just like, okay, I mean, it whatever, let's roll with it. I just don't know
Mhm,
if I would
mhm.
have done the same thing myself. Now, with that being mentioned, I can accept that they went with that spin on the character for this movie. I don't know if I really enjoyed as far as the look of it in the trailer, and I'm curious
Oh,
if you think
wow.
the same.
I for what we got, I thought she was okay, but to be fair, I mean, we didn't really get too much, right?
Did
I
did
think
you?
the original Silver Surfer looked better in
That's my
like
point.
plus.
No,
I would say that much, and that's not a good sign because that movie came out what 10, 15 years ago, probably more.
2007, my guy.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I thought he looked awesome. Great voice work as well too. For that, I thought he looked awesome. But I mean, it wasn't bad to me. Um, yeah.
It's just, I'll put it this way. It's not that it was, you're right. It's not that it was bad.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
the fact that it shouldn't look worse than your movie from 2007. Like,
Yes, I think
you know
I
what I
think
mean?
we can all
That's all.
agree
Like,
with that.
you,
Yeah.
right, all this CGI has come such a long way. You can now give us a full-blown The Thing in CGI, and he looks
Mhm,
great.
mhm.
And but then what happened over here?
What's going on? It's a shiny girl. Okay, well we have that much going.
Also,
Okay.
I'm not too sure if I was reading into this too much, but her face even threw me off a little bit. And what I mean by that
Oh,
is like it looked like when she says your planet is marked for destruction or something like that.
mhm.
It looked like she was smiling when she said it.
Ah, okay. So she's very happy about the oncoming doom. Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
I could be wrong within that. It's what it looked like, and I'll put it this way: if she wasn't supposed to be smiling, then it's pretty weird that I was able to interpret that it looked like she was smiling. But I will say
I'll
this
have to
though.
rewatch it now. I got to look out for that mustache, and I'm going to be looking out for that smile.
But here's the thing. I wanted to go ahead and kind of just kick those out of the way.
Yeah.
Usually it's like, hey, let's start with the positives. I figure why not start with the things that maybe I would criticize. But
Either way.
really
Go
the
for it.
rest of it though, I gotta say I'm on board with.
Okay.
I like the tone, right? When it comes down to as far as just the way that they're portraying this whole retro futuristic thing, right? Where it's like the 1950s or 60s, but it's also
Mhm.
like got more future tech involved in there.
Yeah.
I personally really dig that aesthetic, and I think it's
Oh.
a nice fit for the film.
Yeah.
Again, with the rest of the casting, I'm down. I definitely, as far as like what we've gotten from Sue and Johnny and Ben so far, I do like the concept that it's going to be involving as far as the the kid. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the name.
Is it Richard? Oh God.
Wait,
We
what?
can Google it real quick. Are you talking about the younger kid?
No,
Or the kid that'll be born? I'm talking
Reed
about.
and Sue's kid that's going to be born is oh my god, I know his name. I hate that I'm drawing a blank on this. Ready? All right, Google. Here we go.
You're gonna do the Google. Well, in the meantime, I'll keep things going with a tap dance. No. Well, I will say this one more last thing about the Silver Surfer thing and her and them
Found it. But go ahead.
The female character as opposed to the male one that we're a bit more familiar with. Back in the early 90s, one of my introductions to Incredible Hulk in comic book form was like the gray Mr. Fix-It, I believe he was called. And I actually like that version of Hulk. But that would have been weird if our first big movie of Hulk was like that gray version of the character, because the more familiar and iconic and popular version is the Green Hulk Smash version. It doesn't even matter which one you like, but I'm just saying that's just a more familiar, iconic version, and I think that's what it comes down to for a lot of people with the Silver Surfer. Yeah, there may be a few sexist people in there. Unfortunately, women are bad. Fine, okay, but for the rest of for what I think is the majority of normal people, it's more just like, hey, I would have preferred to have seen the original version. I think that's more what it is. That's my take on it.
I agree.
What I'm sorry, did you find out the name of the character?
I did. It's Franklin Richards.
It is Franklin Richards. Okay, there we go.
And then just to throw in, I also agree real quick, right? You do have some idiots that just want to go ahead and kind of just have a reason to complain about something. So let's go ahead and complain. But you hit the nail on the head. It's just a matter of solely the more iconic version of the character. Really, like the main version of the character is what we wanted to see. It's what most people know. I'd probably argue that there's even a lot of Silver Surfer fans that did not realize that Shia LaBeouf was the Silver Surfer at any point in time. And they're probably even thrown for a little bit of a loop. And maybe I would guess less let down, disappointed. And yeah, that's all that there is to say about that part of it. But anyway, going back on into this baby, Franklin Richards, which I don't know if you know about Franklin Richards in the comics.
Very powerful, right?
Holy crap nuggets. It is like scary, astonishing. He's like Omega level mutant, which by the way, he's a mutant. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that there's a comic that came out recently that retconned that, I guess, where he's actually it's something where he's not, but he ended up like he's so powerful that he made himself get the X gene or something like that. So he made himself a mutant. I don't know. It's something weird, but he's a mutant. I'm sticking with he's a mutant. Crazy powerful, like reality warping, bending powerful. And it's one of those where I'm really curious how they're going to tackle that, because to try and incorporate a character that's that on such a scale of power, I think is really difficult to pull off when you have all these other like street level type of heroes that are running around and everything.
Agreed.
But super curious to see how they tackle that. From what I understand, Galactus is coming to Earth because of Franklin Richards.
Okay. So that's like the rumors for what the actual story, how the story may or may not kind of play out. Okay, interesting. I didn't quite have much of a feeling about the story, about which I like. We get a little bit more of a sense of the direction, but I still can't quite nail down what the hell is the story of this movie going to be. But I'm trying to figure out like how are they going to eventually merge this with the proper MCU. I'm like, how are they going to get there? But I guess that's the interesting stuff. I mean, I'm sure you have an idea and speculation on that.
Yes, I can't take full credit for it, right? It's definitely like this was not I didn't conjure up this idea, but I will gladly pass it along because it's something that I'll kind of give the history of what I've learned up until this point. Potential spoiler alert, but not really. It's more a rumor alert, okay? And take this all with a grain of salt because we don't know until the movie comes out. Supposedly, the original ending of this film was that Galactus was going to more or less defeat them, and he was going to like destroy their Earth. And then upon doing such, them escaping would be like they would escape through the stream of the multiverse and end up in the 616. Now, there is also like kind of an evolvement on that it wasn't just simply going to be like Galactus destroying Earth, that it was going to be an incursion takes place. Do you remember what incursions were from Multiverse of Madness?
Refresh my memory if you don't mind.
Yeah, so it's going to be a much larger deal for the MCU moving forward, right? So this is a big thing. An incursion, at least I'll explain exactly what it is in the comics, and from what I remember, I believe they explain it almost to a T the same from the movie.
Okay.
It's where two universes begin to collide. And it just so happens that every incursion, for whatever reason, always starts at the planet Earth. And the way that it takes place is that two Earths are on the verge of like colliding with each other. And the whole entire thing, the way this goes down, is that if one of the two Earths is destroyed, then the incursion is avoided. And everybody except the destroyed Earth is safe. If neither of the Earths are destroyed, like before the incursion is like full-blown impact, then it's not just the both Earths, it's both universes get wiped out.
Wow. Okay. So there's so in terms of stakes, that's awesome. It's incredible, but like yeah, I love that. I now I'm hoping that they go that direction. It seems to make a whole lot of sense, especially in this case, because as I understand it, the Fantastic Four are the only heroes in this universe. I love the Fantastic Four. They're a badass team. I don't see them necessarily defeating Galactus though, so I can see them losing this fight. In which case they end up, like you said, back in in a proper Marvel universe. Okay, exactly. So that seems to be logical, right? That seems to be like a way that this could go down.
There's also, and I don't really get how this would even come into play or really affect the story too much, but there's rumors that the Fantastic Four themselves are not originally from that universe.
Okay, I hadn't heard that one.
I don't really comprehend exactly why that would be an impactful thing to the story per se. Like I feel like it's just, they're the only heroes of that universe, then what does it really matter if they came from somewhere else? They're still the heroes of that world. Like it's, but anyway, that's also take that with a grain of salt. But then here's like the last thing that I heard as an evolution of it. Supposedly that was the original ending, was that they were going to lose to Galactus, have to flee their universe, and then escape to the MCU. Supposedly they've changed it so that now they're going to defeat Galactus, and it's going to be more of a happy ending, more or less, and that the destruction of their world and their universe is going to take place in Doomsday, is what's now being claimed.
Okay, I guess I could see that happening too. I guess we'll see how it all plays out.
Personally, I don't like the move to that.
Doomsday. Wait, I'm sorry. Which version would you prefer?
I prefer the first way that so the way that they originally, if either one of these are even true, right? But the way that they had it set originally, I like that way better. Let the movie just end on a they lost, their world's being destroyed, they have to flee. There is already way too much that has to take place in Doomsday.
Yeah.
We don't need to now have what should have been the ending to Fantastic Four be shown in Doomsday.
I think I agree. And also, I mean, it's likely that we'll get Dr. Doom somewhere in here, right?
I'm going to say possibly it would be an after credit scene, if anything.
After credits.
But
hey,
yeah,
Eric.
Possibly. What's going on, Eric?
What's up, brother? How are you guys?
So as far as, I don't mind revealing my source because he's one of my personal favorite YouTube channels to listen to. So shout out to Josh over at Den of Nerds.
There you go.
I mean, I can't stress it enough. Everything that I've mentioned, I really want to stress is take it with the grain of salt, right? Like, but I will say this, a lot of things that have come to fruition in movies that have come out in the past, a lot of that stuff I heard from Josh and it ended up being right. Like almost every cameo appearance in Deadpool and Wolverine, I more or less knew about before I saw the movie. And when I say new and put in quotes, all I mean is like, it's all rumors, right? It's all kind of speculatory. There's certain things that you can kind of nail down of like, this is probably for sure going to happen. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of he has just really good sources. I found it to be entertaining. So yeah, again, shout out Josh.
Sounds good. Let's see. Will we get the rest of the major OG X-Men? That's kind of all I care about. The OG X-Men. You know what's going to be I'm going to guess yes. First Class wasn't quite it, was it? It really was. I actually like the First Class movie. I'm not sure about your thoughts on that, but
Oh gosh, I love First Class.
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool for what it was. But yeah, it would be nice to get the old school X-Men, like I'm talking about like the 60s, 70s kind of versions. That would be kind of cool.
I think he's referring to like the for Doomsday. They've already got like
geez, let's see what we get them. I
Yeah,
thought he was just
because
saying like
we've already
just
got
in
Patrick
general
Stewart.
will we get them.
No, because we've got Patrick Stewart coming back as Xavier. We've got Ian McKellen coming back as Magneto. All right, we've got Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Mystique, all from the OG X-Men movies. So look,
So
I'm
those
gonna
are the
throw my
other
hat in the ring.
OGs.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring to say I think they're working on Halle Berry. Past that point, I don't know. Maybe Jean Grey. That'd be really cool.
I mean,
But
when you have back so many original cast members, it's almost going to be weird to be missing a few of them. Like it'll almost be like out of place. It's almost like there's going to be a peer pressure. Like, come on, what are we doing? You're not going to join up. Hugh Jackman is here, for crying out loud. And by the way, Hugh Jackman, I don't think is announced officially, but I think it's safe to assume that he'll be around for Doomsday. Come on now. There are certain people like him that it would be a shock if they're not in it.
Yes, 100%. I'll put it this way: if they've got as many of the OG X-Men as they do, and then they've got Channing Tatum as Gambit returning, like there's not a chance in hell that I'm going to buy that Wolverine, Hugh Jackman's not going to be in there. I'm not going to throw out, or I'm not going to, brush off the idea that Deadpool could show up in there. I don't think that he would have a huge role to any degree, but I don't think that really, when it comes down to it, it's going to be tough to say that many of these people would have a big role. And just to quickly address for anybody that they can't get to come back, I can almost assure you they'll probably have it like they'll probably have it where like Xavier's mansion just has statues that are paying homage to all of the X-Men that they couldn't convince to come back or couldn't pay enough. And then they're just going to make believe they died in this universe. That's all.
Yeah. The X-Men movies left off in a really nice place where they basically hit the reset button, and we got back everybody we ever missed or lost. We didn't see Nightcrawler specifically back, but we could safely assume, sure, he's back too. So they actually left the X-Men movies off on a good note if they wanted to jump back into that universe and continue.
I think and this is just me guessing, I don't think they're going to try and continue the actual, again, I could be wrong here. I don't think they're going to try and continue the Fox X-Men storyline, because let's be honest here, like, that was a convoluted mess.
Oh yeah, agreed.
You know what I mean? And I loved it. It was a bunch of fun to watch. Well,
same.
Some of it was really fun to watch, and some of it not so much. But the point here is, like, it's a very convoluted timeline, and that's okay, right? They did their own thing. But because it was so convoluted, I don't think it makes any sense to try and say, let's take that exact group of X-Men. Okay. It just so happens that we have all the people that play the original roles, but I believe what they're clearly going to try and do, I don't really see why they wouldn't take advantage of this. At the end of the Marvels, did you see the after credit scene of the Marvels? I
can't recall it right now. What happened? Oh wait, are you talking about where Beast showed up? Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So Monica gets, she's in another universe at the end of the Marvels, right? And that's where when she gets there, she's like waking up. She's seeing her mom, but her mom is not the same as like from her universe, because number one, she's alive, and number two, she's a hero in this universe. And then now we got Beast walking around, Kelsey Grammer, right? Makes a reference to Xavier in that scene. The point I'm making is I believe that we're going to see that universe, and it's going to be all of the X-Men, right? Not the people from the Fox storyline, but just the people who played those heroes in the Fox movies are going to be like the classic X-Men in that universe. And I have a strong feeling that that Earth that Monica was left on, I think it's going to be a world where it's like the X-Men instead of the Avengers, just like how we have a world where it's the Avengers instead of the X-Men. I think that in Doomsday, there's going to be an incursion between those two Earths, and we are more or less going to have an excuse to have an Avengers versus X-Men movie.
Yeah, that actually sounds surprisingly streamlined to me. I hope they go with some version of what you just said. Like
I'd be
like
kind
an
of
Earth with Avengers and Earth with X-Men, because as we know, like the X-Men history is so in the comics it's obviously all intertwined, but we're way too late in the game now to say, hey, it turns out X-Men were always here, or Marvel and mutants were always here. So yeah, we have to do an incursion, we have to merge universes, we have to do something creative to sort of stick them all together. Eric's saying a lot of good stuff. Let's see. Why can't they just make that universe our end of the Marvels? Sorry. Why can't they just make that universe our
at the end.
of
Correct.
Oh, at the end of the Marvels. Thank you. At the end of the Marvels, the same universe as where we leave off at the end of Days of Future Past. That would be perfect. Okay.
I mean, it could be a lot more fitting. That's for sure. I'll put it this way, because like I love Days of Future Past. That's, dare I say, that's my favorite X-Men, Fox X-Men movie. Sorry.
Did you see the Rogue cut? I don't mean to cut you off, but did you see the Rogue cut? I think that was the one that had the Rogue cut as well. Okay, if you get a chance, check that out. I think I have the Blu-ray version of that. Yeah, but please continue. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely have to. I don't think I've seen any alternate cut of it ever, so
gotcha.
I would love to. But yeah, I think that based on from what I can recall of how it's left off towards the very end, that could be definitely a better spot to pick it up from than any of the other movies that they did. But again, I'll put it this way: could that work? Sure. I think they're better off just start with a clean slate. Again, you have literally this whole new world where you can essentially more or less bring what we've seen in like the X-Men animated series or X-Men 97. You can kind of bring almost that to life. I'm not saying we actually need to see the cartoon in live action. My point being is like these picture perfect comic book accurate representations of these characters. We can get them as that. And it just so happens that, again, that world, it's just X-Men fighting off against our world where it's just Avengers. It's a perfect excuse as to why you would have X-Men versus Avengers. Because if it's an incursion, it's going to be a situation where it's, hey, look, if we don't destroy your Earth, then we're going to die, and then vice versa, right? You know what I mean? So it's like this weird thing where they're both fighting to save a lot, but also knowing that they have to more or less like kill a bunch of people in the process.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds very Star Trek to me, which is another aspect of it I love.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And then I feel like maybe a solution is, as ridiculous as it sounds, because you can't necessarily have everybody from one Earth just hop on over to the other Earth. But I do think that that's partially what they'll maybe try to do to like help it where like not everybody dies from this other universe. Like, hey, some of you X-Men, why don't you just like live here now?
Yeah. We want our cake and we want to eat it. A clean slate. That's what Post Secret Wars is for. If we're paying homage to the OG X-Men, actually pay homage to the OG movies.
Yeah, but you're never gonna please everybody. That's the problem, is like no matter where you choose to pick up from, like if you pick up from Days of Future Past, you know how many people are going to be unnecessarily upset that they didn't decide to pick up from a different spot?
Yeah.
Again,
or
like
to a clean slate or something. Yeah.
Right. And so again, when it's more or less like we could put clean slate in quotes, right? It's like a half clean slate because you have all the people that are the OG X-Men. They're just playing different versions of the characters, like more true versions. And let's be honest here, man.
That's what Deadpool and Wolverine was. That was not our classic Wolverine. That was a slightly alternate version of Wolverine, and it worked beautifully. And I don't think anybody complained. They were just happy to have Hugh Jackman back.
Well said. Beautiful example. And then honestly, I feel like it's the same thing. Like I feel like James Marsden's Cyclops got done dirty in almost every single X-Men.
I don't think you'll find a person who disagrees with that.
You're right. And so I would rather see a new version. I'd rather see James Marsden still be Cyclops, but where he's actually Cyclops and actually the leader of the X-Men aside from Professor X, right? But he's like the commander in chief to a degree. And I just think he deserves like that type of recognition. I feel like for all of them, they could be like a little bit more accurate to what the true characters are. But
Anyway, well, Eric, thanks so much for popping in, man. And I know he made one little note here about, he said he complained about Deadpool and Wolverine a lot. Feel free to let us know what your problems were with that, because we're just having fun here and nerding out anyway, man. We're going to be moving on to the Daredevil portion, though. Is that okay with you?
No, we're never moving on from this.
All right, then. X-Men.
No, absolutely.
Daredevil, Born Again. So yeah, this was the big return. We were all hyped and excited about this. They shot a whole bunch of it. They looked at it and they said, "Oh my God, this is not working." And then they went back to the drawing board apparently. So this had me worried, man. Like, oh my God, is this show going to be a disaster? I hope not, because the Netflix show was awesome. You were a fan of the Netflix show too, right? Yeah.
100%.
I will say, like, just my general quick thoughts, and then I'll let you do your thing and talk about it, Jace. Is that I was really happy with Daredevil Reborn overall. I think they did a great job. It blended pretty well from what I can recall from with the Netflix show. I didn't get to rewatch the Netflix show, so ideally what I wanted to do was like a back-to-back thing. I didn't get to do that, so. If the old show is a little bit foggy, no pun intended, in my head, from what I can see, rest in peace, though. But from what I see, from what I can see, the show blends nicely. It seems like a genuine continuation of the Netflix show, including all of the hardcore violence and stuff. That's refreshing to see on Disney Plus. I'm sure the kids love watching Frank Castle freaking massacre a bunch of people.
Dude, and swear like a sailor while they're doing it.
Yes.
The amount
I was happy with it overall. Please do your thing, man. Go ahead.
Oh gosh. No, well, yeah, and I'd wanted to be a nice back and forth with this, but yeah, no, man, the amount of F-bombs they took advantage of. There were so many times where I'm like, man, you guys just squeezed that in there because you could. That wasn't necessary. Yes. And that's coming from someone who like loves swearing, you know what I mean? So okay. I'm purposely gonna throw this on there, not to just start off with a comment, but it's because I agree with Eric.
Okay.
So he mentions Born Again was fine, but has nothing in the Netflix show. So, okay, here's the thing. Does it feel like a legit continuation? Thank goodness, yes. It really does.
Cool.
Like, that's one thing I can safely say is, and I mean, here's the thing. It's kind of hard to not feel that way when you have, thankfully, the majority of the cast, or at least the main players, right, that are back in their respective roles. With that being said, I feel like the overhaul of the show, like, so them retweaking things, you know, how you started, hey, they realized it wasn't going well. They completely revamped it, changed it up. And I think they oversold that and overhyped it quite a bit because at the end of the day, we really look, if you look back at how much was he really Daredevil in this season?
Yeah, and not a lot. I'm like off the top of my head, I know we got a bunch of them in the first episode for the first 10, 15 minutes of the first episode. Then he hangs up the mantle for a little while. Then he eventually comes back to take on Muse. We get a little bit of him here and there, and then of course in the finale. So yes, to answer your question, we do not get enough Daredevil. That's one that I was going to get to, like my negative points. That would have been one of them, not seeing enough of Daredevil in action.
Yeah, and I think that's just hard. It's hard to look past. And that's not me asking, like, I don't need punchy every single minute of every episode. But I think that if when you're going to hype up, like, hey, this was going to be some boring courtroom drama, but now it's Daredevil. If you're going to make that claim, then you got to really bring it. And I don't feel like they did. I almost wish that I never heard anything about that whole, we changed the whole show and we did. Just put it out, because like it kind of built up that excitement that I think it just didn't deliver on that note. Again, was it still really good to see Charlie Cox back as Daredevil? 100%. Was it great to see Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin? Yeah, but even like it was stuff of them that I didn't feel was the stuff that I wanted to see. Like, I don't need a 75% to 25% ratio of Matt being a lawyer and Matt being Daredevil. Give me the reverse. You know what I mean?
Okay,
give me 75% Daredevil with a 25% sure, I'll take some lawyer stuff when it's really done right. And thankfully, they do have a pretty decent amount. Like, there was quite a few episodes, specifically the trial on Hector Ayala. I thought yeah, right. So like that was strictly a courtroom episode, but you know what? It had me invested. Like I thought it was just well done. It was entertaining. I'm like, yeah, cool. If you're going to do courtroom stuff, then do it like this. That's fine. But it just got to the point where I was like, we're just doing a lot of talking, and like a lot of talking that I don't even feel like is getting us to where we want to be. It's just taught, like, how many therapy sessions do we need to see of Kingpin and Vanessa?
Some of that stuff felt like possible, and I could be wrong on this. I'm just guessing. Some of that felt like reshoot stuff to me, but I could be wrong. Like maybe they added it in after the fact. Maybe it was always there. I have no idea.
Oh, I know some of it was reshot because they originally cast a different woman as Vanessa, and then they brought back the original lady.
Wow. Okay. So then that pretty much answers that question. I guess you know what, even on a topic of her, and just the villains in general, because it was one of our points that we were going to talk about. We had Muse, we had Kingpin, of course, and we had, I guess, Queenpin, if you want to call her that. And we had all of these corrupt garbage cops. So we had a good amount of villains. Do you think they balanced that all out nicely? Were you happy with that? Not happy with that?
No.
Indifferent?
It's one of the, again, like, trust me, it's weird. I still, let me be crystal clear. I still, like, relatively enjoyed the show. Like,
Okay.
I'm super down for season 2, but I also would like to, like, relatively is a very special choice of words for me there, because it's like, it just didn't live up to the potential what I thought it could. So, like, every one of these is an example. These all had a lot of cool potential to me. I could easily have seen a season that focused where Muse was the main villain of the season, and that Kingpin's still there doing his thing. Like, it totally makes sense that multiple villainous figures can exist simultaneously. And it doesn't need to be where they're clashing as to who's going to be the main villain. You can have it where there's a focus on Muse. He's clearly the lead villain, if you'd like him to be. And then Kingpin's just doing Kingpin shit. It's like, oh man, I'm trying to deal with Muse, but I also got all this ridiculous stuff where Kingpin's now the mayor. I would have rather had that really interesting, like, balancing act of how do I deal with this craziness that is Muse whilst dealing with what Kingpin's doing as mayor. I actually thought my predictions initially for the season was that Muse was going to pose so much of a psychotic, ridiculous, just mental case threat that it was going to force Daredevil and Kingpin to have to, like, temporarily be like, yo, we got to call a truce for right now and stop this dude.
Okay.
I could
have seen that happening too. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that in the middle of all this, we had Bullseye, who kickstarts the whole season.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And is seemingly going to be the main villain. He goes away for a bit, but to be fair, they do bring him back in the end. But Undercooked, would you say that storyline? Or I guess I already know your answer based off some of the stuff you've said so far. And Eric, please stick with us. We will get to you. I see lots of comments.
Oh yeah, no, Eric, keep it coming, man. We love it.
Yeah,
we love it.
Well, we're super happy to have you here. We may as well send you a link at this point.
100%. Yeah.
I'm happy to.
But with this, yeah, it's, again, a lot of potential. It's all I can say. Like, so, all right, with Bullseye, it's fine that they bring him back. He's even going to be back in season 2 now, right?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, he sort of has to be. Yeah.
But it just felt shoehorned in more than anything. Like, it was a great way to start the season.
Yeah.
But then there's, like, absolutely nothing. You almost more or less forget that he could even be a part of this still, until all of a sudden he pops back up towards the tail end of the season. And then when he does, whoa, I'm sorry, but, like, that was one of the biggest probably issues I had with, like, the whole season, was when he gets out of there, which was cool, by the way. I like the way he gets out of the prison. But when he actually gets out and he makes it to the event, how are you going to convince me that this dude who has, like, perfect aim, he kills a guard with his tooth, he's chucking people, like, with, like, paper clips and shit like it's nothing, right? And then he has a full-blown sniper rifle and is in a range where he doesn't even need one, to be honest with you. He probably could have just thrown another toothpick and dude would have been gone, right? But he's all lined up with a legit sniper rifle, and he takes one single shot, which first takes way too long to take it, takes one single shot, and then stops because he hit Daredevil, and then he like gets caught, or he just runs away. What?
Well,
Dude,
it almost feels. I
why
agree
wasn't
with you. It almost feels like a lost opportunity there. Yeah, for him to take a couple of shots. He could miss them all because I know we need Kingpin and Daredevil still alive. Fair enough. Although I think maybe we could have gotten rid of Kingpin's wife in that scene, but okay. But yeah, I think we actually missed. It's like a missed opportunity. Maybe they went for just the single shot for dramatic purposes. But yeah, I feel like after the fact, you do find yourself wondering, hey, just did he only have one shot? Oh, I mean, if you're gonna go with one shot, then maybe set up some crazy scenario where he starts getting shot at, or there's some reason. I don't know. Just that's what I'm saying. Like, just give me a little bit more to just fill out that reason where he's only taking one shot.
You know what they could have done? And I trust me, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure as to the logistics as to what would make this make sense. But one excuse that they could have had is he could have easily been like lined up, and the moment he takes his first shot, all of a sudden he gets shot at by Punisher. Maybe Punisher is right, like same thing. Like Punisher's got a sniper on him as he's got a sniper on Kingpin. How, why, I'm not 100% sure, but honestly, man, I would rather take that over than what happened, because that would just be more believable. It's just weird because it's a show that's so grounded in reality, and they do a lot of like they pull off a lot of stuff believably. And in this instance, that's I guess why it was disappointing, because they have all this stuff that's believable. Bullseye's acting like Bullseye for the whole entire time he's there, up until the moment he should be Bullseye, and then it's just like, sorry. Oops, did I shoot the wrong person? I'll stop now. What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? So yeah, that again, I just felt like, right, a storyline that I'm fine with it being in there. I have no problem that they included Bullseye in the midst of all this stuff. Just wasted potential, right? And then even to draw back in with all these rants, I'm sorry, but like with the
No, it's fine. That's what we're here for the rants, man.
But like
we don't get to do this that often, so we'll rant away.
That's true. When maybe that's the way to make these rants lessen, is we just have to do this on a more regular basis.
Yes, agreed.
But yeah, man, with like the bad cops, I again, I like the concept. I like the inclusion of that in there. But yet again, wasted potential, right? So realistically, if you look back, what do we even get of that? We get one dude who shoots White Tiger after his trial. And that's where we first notice, whoa, wait a second. Was that the Punisher that shot him?
Yeah, I don't. Okay, I get why they went for it, but there isn't a single person on the planet that thought that was Punisher. I don't know why.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We got some gullible people out there.
Why did Punisher kill White Tiger? Hey, can I ask you a question real quick since you brought that up? Did that moment shock you? Did you see it coming, or did you see it like? For me, I saw it coming. Sadly, maybe I don't know. Just before it happened, but maybe other people saw it coming a mile away. So did you see it coming a mile away?
So this is where like, gotcha. Yeah, no, but it's not, but let me be clear. It's not like I predicted it. It's not, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I know he's about to die. It just so happens that with me always following the behind the scenes stuff, there was a clip like from them filming, right? So there was a like someone who was like recording them filming, and it just so happened to be the scene where White Tiger's walking and then he gets shot. And so I was just like, all right, so I know he's going to die in the season. That's one where I guess it would have been nicer to not have that ruin for myself, but still, nonetheless, worked out just fine, I guess. But
that no, was also real quick. He was actually, I want to get his name, Kamar De Los Reyes, I believe was his name. We lost him, so rest in peace. But he was really good for that. I would have been nice to have seen him in it a whole lot more, but for what we got, he was brilliant. So I just wanted to say that much.
No, absolutely. Rest in peace, and definitely appreciate the performance given before. I feel bad. I'm not even sure what he passed from, but may he rest in peace regardless.
But getting back to the Punisher stuff, I think that's what we were getting into. Well, you were saying that was a bit of a missed opportunity, all of that stuff.
It's mostly just because if you rewind back to, again, like, so we get the person in the Punisher logo, right? So we at least get the bad cop that shoots White Tiger. And that starts a little bit of a buildup. And that leads Matt to having his conversation with Punisher, where they make a brief mention of these cops, right? It's literally like a one sentence remark to each other, and then they just go on having a conversation about something else. which don't get me wrong, it's a cool scene,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just kind of brushed to the side. And it's like, all right, and maybe Punisher doesn't really want to talk about him. He doesn't like acknowledging it. I get it. But as an audience, we're just kind of left with not much to feed off of there, right? It's like, okay, so he's not even really acknowledging anything. We barely seen anything. We've only seen this one dude shoot a guy,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't get much. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden, season finale comes, and we have a bunch of cops, all with the Punisher logo. And they're just like, they're sitting down with him with the part where they have him like tied up after he was killing a whole bunch of them and stuff. And they have him tied up and they're like, hey, look, man, we really respect you. We like that moment would have been so much cooler and had so much more of a depth to it if they would have given us like at least a smidgen more throughout the season. It's just
So are you referring to the after the credits bit with Punisher?
No,
And the guy
no.
Anthony. Okay. Okay? You're talking about the interrogation specifically when they have him tied up.
Yeah, when it's all the cops, right? All the bad cops, the ones that like praise him and worship him, right? And they're all standing there, and there's the one specifically that's talking to him.
He calls them clowns or something like that.
Exactly, and also, what's up, Drew? Good to see you, man.
What's up, man?
But yeah, it's one of those where where he's sitting there and calling him clown. That part, it just felt like, I know this is supposed to mean a lot, but it doesn't to me because they haven't given much of anything up until that point. It's just there is a reference, there is a clear indication that there are evil cops out there that seem to praise the Punisher, but it's more, again, it's like this obscure reference more than anything. And then all of a sudden we're expected to like be fully invested when they show us this confrontation at the end of the season. It's like, I'm sorry, but I don't. What you should have done was they should have truly revamped the season, cut out a solid 40% of this lawyer stuff that you had that is just, I'm sorry, but not really working. Like, everybody's doing a fine job with their performances. All the actors and actresses deserve their praises for doing a good job. But like, I don't need it. It's not adding to anything. Replace all of that with like Punisher dealing with his own stuff, like give him his own side storyline and how he's constantly running into these inconveniences because these stupid cops are wearing his stuff and trying to be like him. And it's like this big buildup to where eventually he can't take it anymore. And then at the end of the season, he feels like it's necessary to just go over there and start marking them all.
Okay. And going that route would have given us a lot more Frank Castle. As it is, I feel like we only got him in 3 episodes?
And when we did, it was like a just a droplet of water in the lake of what was going on. You know what I mean?
We get the corrupt cops right up front, and the fact that they're involved with all of the stuff with White Tiger, but it's not clear enough, that they're so linked with this sort of this whole like this movement of corrupt police officers that like idolize Frank Castle. They're like, as far as we know, they're just shitty cops. They're just bad guy cops, right? So maybe up front they needed to just, I know we get some shots of the tattoos and stuff, so it's subtle. I don't know, maybe a little too subtle though. Like maybe we just need a little more of that, since ultimately these guys do become they're essentially like Kingpin's private little asshole army. I actually like that aspect of that's ultimately what they become. That he has this little shitty army in place that he uses, and they're essentially monsters. I like that that's where they ultimately go with it. But maybe I understand your point that it could have been built up a little stronger along the way.
Because yes, like I'm right there with you. I also like that that's what this amounted to. I have no problem that, right, you have like a mini army of wannabe Punishers that are doing stuff for Kingpin. That's great, but the way that they refer to things makes it feel like this was building up to a storyline that we were going to have paid off in season 2.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember all those small references in season 1 about these cops that seem to like worship Punisher, but they're actually a bunch of dicks? Then like have more of that build up within the next season. So again, by the time he confronts them and we see him start taking a bunch of people out, it feels like something instead of just a bunch of, wow, cool, Punisher killing people, cool. Because yes, it is cool. It's cooler when it feels like
cool.
Right, but it's cooler when it feels like it's like a true payoff of storyline, So anyway, yeah, there's just a lot of, I feel like the best way I could describe a feeling of the entirety of the season is liked some of it, but a lot of wasted potential, unfortunately. And that does not change my level of excitement for season 2. I'm still really
Okay.
down for that. It seems like
Okay.
they've kind of like got it down, because season 2, they don't have already 70% of a show that's shot that they now have to redo a bunch of stuff on, right?
We're off to a better start.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
a fresh, like, clean start where it's like, no, they can actually do the right thing from the beginning. So I feel like that. I don't know if you've seen some of the set photos that's been released from season 2, but
I've seen the costume I like so far from what I could see,
Mhm.
even for a set, a set photo off to the side. I think it's pretty badass looking. I can imagine it, in the show proper with lighting and all of that stuff. I think it's going to look amazing. Daredevil has a kick-ass costume. Again, it would have been nice to have seen more of it this season, but I guess I was overall happy for what we got. But I take your point too that it would have been nicer to see it. Hey, before I forget, since the story does get pretty big, did you eventually find yourself wondering, hey, where's Spider-Man? I know we can't get Spider-Man, but we should at least touch on that.
I think just solely due to the fact that the majority of heroes in Marvel seem to exist within New York. I kind of sometimes wonder where everybody is, especially when you have something as audacious as Kingpin becoming the mayor, of the whole entire state. That's a pretty big deal there. So yeah, it makes me wonder what like a lot of them are thinking or up to. It is interesting because we obviously got a reference to Spider-Man directly, so that was really cool.
They were careful with how they worded it so as not to get sued by Sony or whatever. What was it? Something like a freak who wears a spider outfit or something like that. But it worked. I actually loved it. He's their long time, nemesis in the comics. So I think we'll get that eventually. Is your guess that we'll get that confrontation, or will this will sync up in in a movie? That's what Eric was talking about on the stream the other night. They was having some good discussions about that, about how could Spider-Man maybe fit into this stuff that's been established on Daredevil.
Oh, nice. I easily could imagine that the 4th Spider-Man movie, it seems like they want to dabble in between a blend of street level and multiversal craziness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way that they're going to pull that off is it appears as though Spider-Man 4 is going to be released in between Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And if it lines up enough with comic book stuff, the end of Doomsday, I imagine, will be the collapse of the multiverse, and it will be Doctor Doom putting together what's known as Battleworld, which is basically the remnants that's left of the multiverse that he conforms into this new world that he's like literally the god over. They legitimately call him God Emperor Doom. So I feel like they're going to have some Battle World movies, right? So like movies that take place on that convergement of different universes. And so I feel like Spider-Man 4 has the possibility to like start very much like a street level movie where I wouldn't be surprised from stuff that they've been rumoring. I believe that they're going to get Marissa Tomei as Aunt May back. Not because like she's going to be around permanently, but I think they're going to get other people that are back where it's going to be treated like it's a regular thing. Like all of a sudden Peter's going to wake up one day and like Aunt May is just right there. And he's just like, right, this isn't right. There's Sadie, what's her name from Stranger Things, the redhead.
Okay. Well, I know who you're talking about at least. Yeah. So
she's rumored to play.
Actually, we don't know who she is. I think, was it rumored Black Cat or something maybe?
No, she's rumored to be Mary Jane.
Okay. All right.
And so obviously people are like, but obviously people are like, Sadie Sink. Thank you, Eric. But obviously that seems to be weird because Zendaya plays her own version of MJ, right? Yeah. So, but because Battle World would be a bunch of different universes together, there's rumors that it's like, well, that's why there'd be a different MJ that's like the typical redhead we're used to. Yeah. So anyway, there's like the chance of it seeming to be street level at first, which is where we could have the inclusion of Kingpin, Daredevil, all that type of stuff. Because again, it could appear to be like, oh wow, like is this normal? I think this is normal. Like everything's regular, right? Slowly but surely, things start to become clear that they're not normal, and eventually, it just turns into more multiversal madness.
Okay, but I think
that's the way I can see it incorporating together. Is basically right.
I would be happy with most any of that. You tend to come up with better ideas than Marvel does, bro. I guess before we go into some of the Star Wars stuff, Do you want to touch on a few of the Marvel-y kind of stuff that was just in some of the comments? I think that Drew said, huge question. Do you think Thunderbolts could top Phase 5 MCU movies like Deadpool and Wolverine and Guardians Volume 3 as the best Phase 5 MCU movie? Good reviews for that, I'm hearing so far, but this is the early reactions. Joker 2 got, I think, some positive, good early reactions too, and we saw that worked out. Oh, Eric left the chat. But
Yeah, no.
Joe, Eric, don't leave. We love you. But so what are your thoughts on this one, man?
So potentially, I don't know if it's gonna in the box office do better than all of that, but I do think it again potentially has like a chance to end up being like a much better movie than those. At least I'll put it this way, like better than Deadpool and Wolverine, and I say that lightly because I love that movie so much. It's just, but it's an event, you know what I mean? As far as like the actual story, it's a pretty loose story. It's a pretty simplistic, basic like story. There's depth within the performances, but as far as depth within the story, kind of sort of. It's a lot more of oohs and ahs because of who pops up and what they decide to do. Again, it's very much an event of a movie, which is fine. I'm down for it. I have no problems with it. Like that's cool. But it does appear as where Thunderbolts, perhaps, from what I'm hearing, seems to have more depth to the story, which I think will actually help out since it's a bunch of characters that are not as A-list as others. Now that's where it could be very much like head to head with Guardians 3, I guess, because Guardians 3 is very, very story in depth. But yeah, I don't know. I'll put it this way. I do think initially, like final answers, I think it could be one of the top Phase 5 movies because that's not really a very high bar that's been set.
Yeah, that's about what I feel. I don't see it topping. I mean, I love Guardians 3 and Deadpool and Wolverine, so for me at least, I don't see it topping them. But like we live in crazy times, so like maybe, it seems like we live in a world where like practically anything can happen. And I guess viewer Drew also says, for me, I don't think it will top either movie. So did Eric have one more other thing to say? I think Eric mentioned, I just basically want them to stop with the Disney Plus shows for both Marvel and Star Wars. Maybe just keep Daredevil going and make it great and nothing else. So Eric just wants them to strictly concentrate on Daredevil. I think I get the vibe. I like Daredevil a bit more than Jace, but Jace still liked it. Jace, what are your thoughts on this though?
I mean, I think they need to tone it back, but it's weird because like you obviously you want them to be able to crank out a bunch of stuff, but they are getting to this point, or I should say have gotten way past this point where they just care seemingly much more about quantity than quality. And if that's the direction it's going to turn, then I don't want it. Like, give me the reverse. I'd rather take quality over quantity. If you're only going to give me a little bit, make it as great as it can be. I'd rather have that than a whole heaping pile of trash that's consistently delivered on a regular basis. I'll put it this way, as far as like for the Marvel shows, there are some that are already made that I wish they just would have made other stuff. I think my point being is like, it's just their selection. It's not so much the fact that they're doing shows. It's like they're not caring enough to make it good. And it's also the selection of the shows that they're doing are like, who decided this? I feel like they just like put a bunch of random stuff on a board and then they like put a blindfold on and threw a dart at the board. And they're like, awesome, we're making a show about Wonder Man. Why? What are you doing? Why are we having any of the stuff that we're getting? And I'm telling you right now, that's why they were just dumping it all out this year, because they want to just get it over with, be done with all the stuff that was half-assed, and then just get on to the good stuff. But
what was the other one? Was it Ironheart? Is that the one that's in the can? And okay, so it was Ironheart and Wonder Man, you said?
Those are still coming out this year. It's just, but I really think that they'd be doing themselves a favor by not even releasing them. I think you're hurting the brand more at this point, because no matter how good they might be, no matter how good the performances might be, and how much those people may have worked hard on the show, and I'm not trying to take away from any of that. That's
no, understood. Yeah.
Right. But it's at the same time, it's like when you're looking at what's the current state of Marvel, more specifically, what's the current perception from the audience of Marvel? It's too much. It's too much, and you guys are doing a bunch of stupid stuff that seems like it's all disconnected, and it's like you don't care, and it's like you're just doing things because you can do it. You have to be able to read the room enough to understand, like, maybe these certain things, as far along as they are or as complete as they may be, maybe they don't work for us, and this isn't what we need right now. And it's a shame because we really thought this was going to be it, and we put a lot of stuff into this, but it's going to do more harm to us at this point than good. Is like, as weird as it is to compare it to this, and we can't say for sure because we never saw the movie and we probably never will.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, but Batgirl, you know the whole situation with Batgirl?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up in relation to this because that was eventually scrapped.
Right. And so, look, obviously none of us can say, oh, but it was going to be really good. But we also, can't say either way. That's the point. So perhaps it was the right move. Like, I don't know for sure, but perhaps it was the right move. And it's just one of those where I think they'd almost be better off putting that in the same position with these shows, where it's like, you know what, just never mind. You're never going to see more than what you did. And sorry, by the way, didn't mean to just tickle your nuts and then leave you alone here. But
for those people who are like maybe looking forward to it, I think they have an off ramp for this. I think that in terms of marketing or PR or whatever the hell you want to call it, they can just say, look, we made these in a time when we were going in a certain direction. We've moved into a different direction now. I'm just saying, if they, you have to make it sound nice before you just completely scrap a show. That's your off ramp. Just say, look, you could even say like these shows don't even completely fit into continuity. We would have to do all kinds of rewriting and reshoots and stuff. They have an off ramp if they want. I wouldn't be surprised if they I can't wait to see, like, maybe they will take that off ramp and just end up scrapping some of these things that fans are a little leery about. We'll see. Or like you said, or maybe they'll just dump them out.
No, I think they're going to stick with it. I think at this point they're not going to just cancel anything. And I mean, be it.
Will they even fit in the continuity if you just dump it out and these things were made and have been sitting on a shelf? Well, I mean, a big thing with Marvel is that, like, we really get into the weeds now, but I love it. A big thing with Marvel is that everything is so interconnected and there's continuity and there's all of this and all of that. I mean, if you made a show, like, when did they shoot these things? A few years ago, right? I mean, how much is it going to, I don't know. Maybe they can trim it and edit it apart and make it fit, or just figure out how to make them. Maybe they were made to be standalone, in which case, in theory, they could work. But like you said, if they're not good, standalone or not, they're going to damage the brand further. We already have a whole horde of YouTube channels out there that are frothing at the mouth, waiting for some new Marvel or new anything Disney related to drop and be awful, and they're going to make 1 million clicks and $1 million off, like, shitting on it.
Yeah, that's it's tough to make a call that would be the right call, but nonetheless, I don't know if what they're doing is technically like the right call. I think the right call would have been hold off before you just go 0 to 100 on all these things in the first place. You should have just never greenlit the production on all these things. You could have still had all the ideas. You could have played around with all the stuff, but to just go for it right away. Because now you're putting yourself in this weird predicament where now people are going to wonder, well, so is Ironheart going to be in Doomsday? Is Wonder Man going to be in Doomsday? Yeah. Also, where's White Vision still? And like all these
where's
things.
She-Hulk? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Although She-Hulk, I heard, might be in it, but
I believe so. There's like leaked concept art of her being with Hulk and Scar.
That must be why I heard it, from that leaked concept.
And if that's the case, man, so be it. Like, I'm not like it is not the case where I would never want to see her back as that character. But so help me God, like, if they can't just like take things seriously and do a good job with it and not have it be some ridiculous mess where it's got to be like, obviously if it's not her show, they have to incorporate it in a different way that would probably make her less annoying. Because I'm really sorry, but that's just what it came off as most of the time. But that's the point, dude, is they got all this, like, these different characters where there's already so much going on within these upcoming Avengers movies. You already have so much. You're bringing back people that have played or haven't played the roles for so long with these different X-Men, and you got, Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Dr. Doom. To try and cram in all of this other stuff that just is totally irrelevant.
Yeah,
is unnecessary and just causing a more of a mess than what's needed, right? So I just think that they got to chill a little bit and just focus on the good stuff, which I know is not fair to say 100% what is or isn't the good stuff. That's kind of it's an opinion, but you got to chill a little bit and focus on the big stuff, I should say, not these random little tiny side things of characters that only a quarter of your fan base knows about at most.
Agreed. And speaking of chilling a little bit, look who has just showed up in the chat.
What's going on, Dan?
Thanks so much for coming by, and thank you for helping us set this up as well, Dan. And also special thanks to Sean. He helped set this up too. It was a little bit spur of the moment, but Jason and we just had a talk. Star Wars time.
I think so.
I think it's Star Wars time.
Because if we don't do that, then we're just never going to get to it.
You know what, dude? The Marvel thing was fun, though. That was a lot. And thank you so much, Eric. You popped in with some X-Men stuff. And so Star Wars Celebration 2025 just happened. There was a buttload of stuff that popped out. But just to sort of start going through the list real quick. I don't know how far you got in Andor, so I'll be quiet.
Seen all 3 episodes.
Oh, okay, great. So I don't even know if we really have to go into spoilers too much because we have so much to talk about. We can kind of just keep it general, but feel free to spoil away if you want. What are your thoughts? Because I know you weren't the biggest fan of the first season. I was. So what I'm curious what you thought of the first 3 episodes.
So I think that it's off to an all right start.
Okay.
There, and I know we're going to start to get into details, but the first thing I'll at least say is this. With season 1, probably one of my biggest gripes, I should say, is the aesthetics. I just felt like aesthetically, it didn't feel like Star Wars. I felt more like it came off as a very well-produced, well-written, well-acted sci-fi show that just reminded you every now and again, like the moment you were about to forget it was Star Wars, all of a sudden a TIE fighter would fly by and you're like, oh, that's right, this is Star Wars, right? But it was so disjointed. Part of it could be like, people would probably say right away, oh, why? Because there wasn't aliens and stormtroopers and lightsabers everywhere. And it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, but that's kind of why. Okay. Because at the end of the day, if you don't include those things, then why are you even making it Star Wars? Not every Star Wars project needs to have lightsabers. Not everything needs to have Jedi and the Force. And I get that. Although I do think it's really weird.
Yes, they do.
I do think it's really weird when people pick up on that stuff too. I think it's so bizarre when people are just like, oh, why do we need to always have the Force? Because, dude, that's like one of the main things. It's Star Wars.
I know it's an odd point. I think what they're trying to say, and maybe they're not being so eloquent about it, is that they want to expand into other things and other areas of the Star Wars universe. I think that's what they're getting at.
Yeah.
But it does come off as just, I don't want to see all of the things that Star Wars are famous for.
Right. And it's like, so then why are you watching?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Then why are you watching Star Wars? Go watch something else. Like, if you know what I mean? If you just want
and the Skywalkers and all of the best things, I don't want to see any of that.
Yeah. Like, do you realize that's the equivalent of me saying, why can't they just show a game of football where there's like, they're not throwing the ball around? And do we always have to tackle each other? And like, why are they always wearing different colors? Like, can't they just wear the same colors as each other?
Yes.
Dude, then why are you watching football?
Dude, it's the same people that scream fan service at everything. Everything is fan service. Oh my God, there was a thing in the background and it was a callback. It's like, okay, so fine. I'll give it to you. Some stuff can be a little bit much, but overall, it's like, go ahead, service me with some fanny stuff.
That's what makes the thing the thing. Like, so that with this, what I basically am getting at is aesthetically, season 2, within these first 3 episodes, it looks and feels a lot more like a Star Wars vibe to me.
Okay.
So agreed, and I think that's just right, because right up front, you got Andor in a shiny ass Empire pilot suit. You got him flying this, crazy ass TIE fighter that's like, some prototype TIE fighter. You got
that's our background, that prototype TIE fighter. That's sort of our background there.
Yeah. Which is, I know it's hard to make out with this, but absolutely.
Yeah, we're blocking exactly 95% of it, but still. Yeah, and as you talk, speaking of which, it doesn't make any sense for me to have Josie's in the background, so I'll switch over to my Star Wars thing. But please keep talking. Watch me pull myself out of the stream, changing my background for a lame thing like that. I'm sorry. Please keep going.
No, you're good. You're good. But between that stuff, the stormtroopers popping up right away. I know we got plenty of the Empire from season 1, but just that much more of the, Empire, I guess. Like, it definitely, again, makes me feel like, all right, cool. This is within Star Wars. I don't personally find Cassian to be the most compelling main character. I think he's a really cool character. I like his character. I don't mind following his character. It
Mhm.
it just does. Oh my god, that's a great picture.
This is us by the end of the stream tonight. No, I'm
That's
just
true. That is very, very on point. But oh my god, I lost track of what the hell I was gonna say there. I don't mind Cassian. I just again, as a leading character, I think it's just yeah. I mean, and here's the other weird thing. For a leading character, how much does he really lead the show within these first 3 episodes? Because let's call it like it is, man.
Mhm.
In the first episode, it is cool. He has this interesting escape and he manages to get the hell out of there. And all right, cool, cool, cool. Then he goes to a planet and gets taken, he's captured, and
Mhm.
then he just chills out for 2 episodes until he dips back out and finally leaves. He, he doesn't really do much of anything, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I'm hoping we get a lot more of him. I'm hoping Diego Luna, who is awesome, gets to flex his acting chops. In the upcoming episodes, I'm sure he will. Dude, Eric made a comment about the characters not being as interesting. I love Rogue One, but that's sort of a thing with Rogue One too. I think for if you grew up in the original trilogy era, and we had our Luke, our Han, and our Leia, and hell, I'm even going to say it. If you grew up with the prequels, we had Anakin and Padme and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and then you get to Rogue One, and the characters, they're not as like I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here. They're just not as like they're not popping off the screen as much. They're much more grounded and gritty and realistic. And that's completely carried over from Rogue One into the Andor series. So I could see people being a little bit, maybe not as engaged by these characters. And to your point about Cassian, the lead himself, which is sort of important. I mean, you're the star of the show.
Yeah.
So
It's literally
ideally you
called
want.
Andor.
Dude, some people had the same problem with Ahsoka, right?
But it's very like you can point out, and I would be able to meticulously tell you as to how Ahsoka is clearly the lead of her show.
Okay.
Right. But like with Andor, now in season 1, perhaps it's a bit different. He's clearly the lead, I think. But I just mean right with these 3 episodes, and they're breaking it up into 3 episode chunks across the board. Like it's very hard to say he was the lead of these 3 episodes, or even just the lead of the show at this point.
It feels like more of an ensemble, if anything. He's an important part, but Jesus Christ, you might argue Mon Mothma is more important going off these 3 episodes. I don't know. So, I mean, that's it. I was again, I'm a nerd for this show, so I was overall still happy with it, but I take your point, and I think I pretty much agree. We still have a little bit of that problem with Cassian not quite feeling like he's getting a little bit lost in his own show. I know I may have said this before. I almost wonder if just calling this Andor wasn't the best bet, and maybe a different name. What do you think? Would that have helped? Something like where it was just
potentially. I mean, I don't know how much it would have helped, but potentially. But it's because it's just almost a little like I don't want to say false advertisement, but ever so slightly because you think you're watching like, oh, cool, I'm going to see the story of Cassian. And it's like, no, you're actually about to see the story of the dude behind Anthony right now who has his mom over for dinner because he's trying to, win over the love of his life and his mom at the same time. Like that was, see, this is what I mean. Like that element of it is you could have erased all of that and then simply just given us more Cassian if you want him to be the lead of the show. Because
agreed. It's like, where is this going? Kind of thing. Like I liked it. I thought it was kind of goofy for what it was, but I'm also sitting there wondering where is this going and does this fit in with Star Wars, the quirky mom?
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Hold on, I gotta throw this in while it's right because like that was it right there. It's like people sometimes like think, well, but that was good. Like the scene was like good though. Like I liked the scene. It's
good in and of itself. Yeah.
Right. You can like the scene. It's okay. But what did it do for the overall story that we're watching here? Like, it's fair to say, yes, they acted well, and perhaps it provided some like comedic relief or whatever the case is. But in its full over like arcing structure, what was the purpose of this being included in what we're seeing here? I think that's the like kind of the main thing is like people aren't willing to look past like, but I liked it though. That's fine. But why are we not willing to admit it had no purpose to serve within what we're doing right here?
it's serving as like we're fleshing out these two characters who were a pretty big part of the first season, and now they're hooked up. So it's doing that much, but the bigger picture, I don't know. I don't know right now. And I'm trying not to get down on the show because I don't know, but I will say that much, that like good on its own, no clue where it's going, and maybe that'll be okay. Maybe we'll look back at this once the show's wrapped up and see, oh, okay, so it somehow the clash between the mom and his new girlfriend, it makes sense because it parallels with the rise of the rebellion. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I know it
does feel detached.
Yeah, and it just also feels like because I agree, like, yes, you can easily say it's like, well, it's a continuation of these two characters from season one, and but it's like, is that what this show is? And more specifically, is that what people really want out of Star Wars? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, man, like, if I would rather take some, and I'm gonna say this lightly, because the things that were portrayed in Acolyte, not the actual show of Acolyte, okay? But the stuff that they did in there, at least they tried to go balls to the wall and be as Star Warsy as they could on a regular basis.
I would agree. Yeah.
And I would almost appreciate more of an attempt. I don't want something as shitty as the Acolyte, but I do want something where it's like, can you at least try to, like, if you're going to include some nonsense, like, make it some Star Warsy nonsense. Why am I watching? Even though, again, I will admit, dude, I was entertained by the scene too. But why are we sitting here watching this dude have dinner with his girlfriend and his mom?
Well, it's sitcom type stuff, right?
Material. And that's just not. And then I'll put it this way: I didn't think I was gonna sit down watching a sitcom when I put on Andor. Right? I was expecting to see a Star Wars show, and it's one of those, again. It's like mixed feelings, because I love the way that the blonde, like, just starts like smack talking the mom as soon as he leaves the room. I love the way that where she's like, "Yo, you better like."
Agreed. Mom comes in and tries to, like, sort of like, okay, so I'm gonna be running this, and it's like, no, Mom, you're not. Actually, you're not. I like that. I did like that. I guess if anything, it helps mainly flesh out that character.
I know, but again, so this is where we get back to the whole.
She's already pretty badass to me.
But it gets back to the whole. It fleshes out the character. It is well acted. It is an enjoyable scene. But why is it here?
Like, why is it playing out in sort of a sitcom type format as opposed to something a little more Star Warsy? You're looking for it. You keep finding yourself saying, "This is okay, but can you make it more Star Warsy?" And not in the sense of like, I just want lightsabers. Just something a little more alien, a little more fitting for that universe.
I'll put it this way: even if it doesn't have people picking up stuff with the Force and, like a lightsaber fighting all the time, that's fine. I don't need blasters firing all the time. But again, like, even if you're going to have a scene that has none of that stuff and it's just people sitting down talking or bickering or whatever, then let it be something that ties much more directly into the story at hand. Like, look, if I were to ask you, what is the point, right? These 3 episodes are supposed to be an arc. Every 3 episodes is an arc of Andor for this season. They've made that very clear. What is the purpose of this arc? What is the story of it? Like, just if you could summarize it briefly, how would you summarize it?
I would have to say it Andor does seem to sit out most of it, but ultimately it gets him hooked back up with his friends who had, and it reestablishes the Empire as sort of being like, this very ominous, horrific threat. On that note, I'll say also, I can't believe that they went as far as they did with the one woman who gets assaulted.
I want to get into that.
So all of that stuff is what I was there for. But you're saying, what was the overall theme? I don't know. I agree. I guess it's a little bit muddled. And if I find myself trying to struggle to say it, or if I find that I'd have to really sit down and write it out, then I guess it's not as clear as it should have been. So I take a point on that.
And here's the, and if it's hard enough to say, right, like, okay, let me try to summarize this for you. Like, ready, if I were to try to, I would basically say, okay, so in the first 3 episodes, Cassian starts off at an Imperial base of some kind where he attempts to steal a TIE fighter. I'm not 100% sure what the purposes of stealing the TIE fighter is. His attempt, from what I can understand, he attempts to meet with another pilot so that he was going to drop off this ship and then they were going to take it. I don't know what they were going to do with that ship afterwards.
Mhm.
I'm not also sure what Cassian was going to do after he dropped off the ship if things went according to plan.
Mhm.
But he ends up getting captured, put by on the, like, kind of like on the sideline for a couple of episodes. He eventually manages to get back to the TIE fighter and flies away. And basically, I guess, is able to kind of like take off from where the guy he was going to meet up with does. Simultaneously to that, we have Mon Mothma's daughter's wedding
Mhm.
that's taking place, and while she's there, you got Luthen, who is doing his normal like lurking in the background thing.
He's doing his Luthen thing. Yeah,
Right,
agreed.
but like what specifically he's doing, what is
Well, we
Mon
never quite.
Mothma
Yeah.
specifically doing?
Yeah.
What
Maybe
is
we'll.
anybody there specifically doing?
Maybe they're just going for dumping us back into this world, reestablishing where we are in the Star Wars timeline, and maybe they're trying to show us on the with the Andor stuff where he's kidnapped and he's held captive and he's sort of like out of the picture almost. Maybe they're trying to show us that there's these different levels. I'm like literally just trying to think it out now in my head because you asked me about it. But I'm happy to think it out. I'm guessing like, maybe it's a matter of like they're trying to show the different levels of the rebellion. At one end of it, we have the people on the lower side of it that are like a disorganized mess, and then on the upper side of it, we have Mon Mothma. She's sort of a mess too. So it's everything's in disarray now, and I'm hoping that I mean we get the reveal at the end that they're actually on Yavin. So maybe this is establishing, hey, we're in a bad point right now with with this rebellion sort of on the rise, and by the end of the show, they'll be in a strong point, like where we seen them at the beginning of A New Hope, where they were able to take out a Death Star. So maybe that's sort of what they're going for here, but it's something you have to kind of stop and think it out, or at least for me, and be put on a spot a little bit with it, and really think like, what were they trying to do with this arc?
Yeah, because
so I'm
here's
not
the
the
thing,
only one
like,
confused. Good to know. Okay, thank you, Eric. We're all
yeah,
confused, but we're happy about it.
I'll put it this way, it should be something that makes you continue to think about it after you watch it.
Mhm.
It, in my personal opinion, it should not be something that you are so confused about that you have to think it over after you've watched it to try and
Okay.
understand what the hell you just saw. You
Okay.
know? Like, and I'll put it this way. I did until I saw like I thought about it a bit and was like questioning certain things, and then I saw a couple of other people talking about it. I wasn't even really entirely sure that the whole drama with Mon Mothma and like the guy that she's talking to a lot is that he is more or less he started up like a I guess like a foundation or is helping with like the
Mhm, mhm.
investment, the funding of the rebellion, but he's doing it through like business corporations so that it looks like
Yeah.
it's all legit stuff or whatever. Okay, and that's fine. I mean, I'm honestly like it's not the type of stuff I would want to watch first, but I'll put up with it.
Mhm,
But I don't think that was translated very well. Like either it's
mhm.
just they're using like, and I feel like, look, I'm not trying to say that I'm super duper smart, but I'm also not an idiot. So like, I feel like if I can't pick up on what you're putting down here, you're probably could be executing this a little bit better. And I just
Okay.
think like that's the point is, again, as we're saying, and that was the reason why I asked this in the first place. If
No, it's
neither
fine.
you nor I can summarize very clearly what this arc was, then I don't know what they're trying to pull off here. Because let's just say hypothetically that the next episodes took place immediately after where we just left off. Okay, I would have a completely different reaction, or at least somewhat of a different reaction, because I feel like, all right, sure, they're trying to really just pace things out, take their time, get us like invested in certain things, and maybe we'll see the payoff later. But that's not supposed to be the case. There's supposed to be another time jump between
We're
this
gonna
and then the next set of 3 episodes.
we're
So
gonna jump
it's like,
ahead. Yeah.
so yeah, you would
True.
think if you're choosing to only be here in this point in time for a certain little bit, for just these 3 episodes, then you kind of need to make a solidified, defined, this is what we were trying to say. This
Okay.
is what the story we were telling within these 3 episodes. Not just simply, hey, let's bring you back to the world of Andor. We already, yes, I know. That's why I'm turning the show on. Right.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
so I think that's we needed a very clear path where it was just a bunch of muddied water, I felt more than anything.
Okay. So a mid start for you, you'd say.
Yeah, again, like, it definitely some things that worked aesthetically for sure.
Mhm,
It did thankfully still good performances for sure.
mhm,
It looks incredible, man. Like, you could tell
it's
that they
amazing.
really took the time to put the budget into this, and like it's like the opposite of what the Kenobi show ended up looking like, because that looked like it was on such a set stage the whole time. This looks like we're at these worlds, like you're at these different places that, you know, feel like on a cinematic level.
Yes, yeah, we're moving through what seems to be practical real world sets. There's extras. Dude, if it's CGI, then they're doing a magnificent job on it. It's not feeling as much like you said, the volume. I believe they used a lot on the Obi-Wan show. I'm guessing, I'm assuming they used it somewhat here. But also we get like so many shots of her dancing drunk, then nothing even came of it. Just cut to black after the 5th shot of her dancing.
Dude,
I mean,
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I took it as her sort of being lost in this whirlwind of like she's like losing control. That's the way I took of it, and that sort of symbolized that. But that's the way I took of it. That's the way I took that moment. I'm sorry, Jace. What were you gonna say though about that crazy dancing?
It's not even that it didn't amount to anything, like he's saying. It was intercut in the weirdest way. There was a scene that was taking place that was like a serious scene. It was like the
Was it the stuff on the farm? Was that
we're like they're on the farm and Cassian's like getting that, and they're like trying to escape and all that type of stuff and all that. And it keeps cutting back and forth to her just raving, and then it cuts back like the serious stuff.
Hello, that's my 19. That's me in my 20s. There we go. I can remember.
And yeah, I just thought I'm sorry, man, but like that was another example of like what exactly are we doing here? The amount of screen time that was dedicated to stuff that just made me go, why? Is definitely alarming.
Well, we got this guy like, you know, being berated by his mom, and we got a rave.
And it's like, what was the purpose? And you know what scares me, man, is
you know what said? I still can't wait for the next season. For the next
here's the thing.
I am still looking forward to it. For what it's worth. I guess you are too, to be fair. Yeah, I know we're dumping a little, but I think we're still looking forward to it. Maybe again, me more so than you, but you're still looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, 100%. But I just feel like, you know, these things are I feel, right, and obviously it's an opinion-based thing, but I feel that these are pretty fair criticisms. Like I'm not trying to go out of my way to hate on this. I just like it's legitimate stuff that I think from a creative standpoint needs to be taken into consideration. And again, what alarms me is there are some people out there saying, yo, this is like the best Star Wars ever. And it's like
that was me. Sorry.
And look, then in that case, we got to end the stream right now. I'm so sorry.
Eric mentions don't forget the rock paper scissors.
Oh God, dude, don't even get me started. You know what's so funny is I called that out as a joke before it happened. When they got to that serious, intense moment, long story short, I jokingly thought to myself, bro, watch them do some dumb shit like rock paper scissors. But I mean, completely sarcastic. I was not serious in the slightest. I didn't actually think they were going to do that. And then they did their own version.
I thought that stalemate lasted a bit long between the two groups after they'd had it out and they got in a conflict. I feel like that could have been resolved a little bit quicker too. That would have been nicer to have seen a resolution to that, since it ultimately just ended up with him being like peacing out and escaping. That's where that went. Like I said, after I thought it out, after you asked the question, my guess is that's where they were going with showing a lot of that stuff, establishing that the rebellion is almost still in its infancy in certain respects when it comes to certain groups, and then other groups are a little bit more organized, but still chaotic and having their problems. I guess that was sort of the muddy point in that show. But I guess like just to keep things moving a little bit from one thing that isn't Star Warsy enough to another thing that's like couldn't be any more Star Warsy, in my opinion, at least. There may or may not have been a leaked Mandalorian trailer.
Wait, hold on. Before we get to that,
one more thing.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I don't think we can possibly pass by this.
Okay.
Without making some sort of remark towards the grape, the attempt of grape.
I'm sorry, elaborate.
Great. If you recall, there was this very elaborately put together scene of an Imperial officer who was fond of Bix, which I believe.
Oh, okay.
And and he was just like, man, I'm about to grape you because I like grape.
Okay, gotcha. I thought all of that felt slightly out of place for Star Wars, but I guess fitting with what we're doing with this show, it's going for a more adult thing. It felt very much like a piece of shit Noxie or something like that you would have seen coming in and going after, someone else. I thought that was good, and I thought there was foreshadowing at least toward it. It didn't just come out of nowhere. She's already been through trauma and torture in the first season. So now we're just sadly sort of, I feel bad. We're almost rehashing that a little bit for this character, but at the very least, I like that. Like, she fought back, and we got a little bit of pushback against that. She saved us. She basically saved herself. She kicked that guy's ass. I was okay with that. Was that out of place to you, or that didn't quite work?
It's not that it didn't work, but out of place is the best way to put it.
Out of place. Was it? I mean, look, dude. The thing is, like, I think sometimes with Star Wars, for me, going back to Revenge of the Sith, when we see Anakin pull a lightsaber on a youngling, I feel like that was the moment for me where I'm like, okay, Star Wars can sometimes be more adult and mature. That was my moment. I mean, that was my moment. That doesn't mean that we necessarily need to see more of that. But I feel like ever since then, I've gotten a little more not okay. Like, oh, I can't wait to see like awful nightmarish shit in Star Wars. But that was the moment for me that made me think, okay, Star Wars could be more mature sometimes. So something like that, I'm like, okay, I guess. I mean, we hinted at that in Return of the Jedi with Jabba and Slave Leia for crying out loud. That felt a little creepy, like,
it's creepy for sure. But I mean, like, there's never at any point in time where you thought to yourself, like, yo, I think that Jabba's about to grape her.
No, this was explicit. This was very explicit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so, like, at the end of the day, for how they did shoot it and how it was portrayed, I do agree that, the way it was executed, I actually even think the fact that she fought him off in the way that she did was like very believable, right? It's not like she randomly turned into a super kick-ass superhero and just like busted out some karate. Like, no, it was like the most believable thing of her just happening to get the upper hand at the right time. And so it worked out nice in that regard, as far as how, like, if you're going to do it, then I guess that was like probably the best way you could do it. But here's the thing. I kind of just look at it as like, this goes back to the whole, when I'm saying about seeing this guy have dinner with his mom, Mon Mothma dancing her, drunk ass at a rave. And it's just like this, why? Like, what is the purpose of us getting that here? And if we were to say, what is the purpose of them attempting to do that to her? I guarantee you that everyone would probably argue, well, we're really trying to show how evil the Empire is. And I hate to burst any bubbles here, but guess what? I already knew they were evil, bud. I watched them blow up an entire planet of motherfuckers without a second thought. Okay. Alderaan, gone. That I get it. They're pretty evil people. Okay. And I think that if you're really trying to show that, sarcasm aside, you can do that plenty of other ways. I think that there's a list of different ways that you can go about it where he still could have made her severely uncomfortable. It didn't need to be in a sexual nature, and still really proving the point of like, this dude, these people suck. I would never want to be around these people in real life. This is horrible. I think, again, you already know they're bad, and I don't think you needed to do something like that to prove how bad that they are. And it also is kind of weird to me that there's a lot of replies of stuff that I've come across where people are like, yeah, but it's important because like that stuff happens in the real world. Right. So where in the real world are people using lightsabers? And where in the real world are people dressing up like, like these people in the Empire and actually being the Empire? Like, is the Emperor real? Yeah. Is the Force real? Like, my point being is like, I get it. Yes, that's the fair thing. It happens in real life. I know. Sadly, it does. That doesn't mean that it needs to be in Star Wars.
Okay. So you know what I mean? You would have left that out or toned it down.
1,000%. I mean, that's something where it's like, is it the end of the world? I don't think it deserves or justifies a reaction of like, whoa, this is not right. This is so wrong. It's horrible. No, let's be honest. Again, the way that they pulled it off and executed it is arguably probably the safest route they could have taken with it. Yes. However, I just don't think it served the purpose that they wanted it to, which was we need to really, really drive home the point of how horrid the Empire and the people within it are. And I just think you could have done that many other ways. And again, sorry to tell you this, but we already knew they were horrible. You can tell by the fear in everybody when they show up. These are some horrible people. And so again, like it's fine. It's just I just don't think it was needed. I don't think it fits within Star Wars that well. I don't think just because this is an adult show, bullshit. What about this show is so adult? Other than the fact that it's more handling like I guess a slower pace and mature performances from character, but like there's nothing that's really adult material about this show. Do you know what I mean? It may be more.
I mean, particularly in if you're gonna compare it to Skeleton Crew, for example, and even regardless of even if you can, I don't even think you get a chance to see that show, but
no, I did.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's considered more family friendly, but and then so if you're gonna compare it to that, then you would say, well, yeah, it's more adult than Skeleton.
But what is not
speaking?
But this is like a serious thing, and like right, it's just could we even? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I can't really think of anything. What would be considered not family friendly about Andor?
Well, I think that subject, that right there, would be one of the things where if you're watching it with your kid, that might be a conversation afterward. Hey, what was he trying to do? But she explicitly says the word.
That's not the point I'm making. That one moment was the one adult moment of this show. In other words, what I'm trying to say here is people will use that as a defense. People will sit here and they'll go, dude, well, you know, it is an adult show. Besides that, tell me what makes this show an adult show. There has been nothing else that has come close to that degree of what took place. Nothing.
Okay, so I take your point. So you're saying that for the most part, everything else is still in general Star Wars kind of territory, and then this kind of up the ante a bit.
Basically, it's the rest of it was much more mundane. Like, be honest, man. Did you feel the need to sit down and talk to your kids after any episode from season 1 to explain what they just saw?
Yeah.
No.
No, not necessarily. Although I can't, unfortunately, sadly, I can't get my kids to watch any Star Wars, man.
Well, more specifically,
I understand your point. Still, same thing. Yeah, I think this would have been one where I maybe would have had a. Okay, so but even that, I mean, sadly, once kids hit a certain age, they know that they know that terrible things in the world happen.
But we're getting away from the point.
I guess we are. Okay.
Right. The point is, I guarantee you, if you did convince them to watch season 1, or if you just rewatch season 1 or whatever, you would probably be able to tell me, Jace, there's nothing from that show that I would have had to like make my kids make sure that they understood what they saw afterwards and not be too uncomfortable with it. We get
an implied sex scene with her, I believe, in season 1, right? Like the next morning kind of thing. I think Andor 2, he shacks up with somebody. Again, these are sort of at least getting into adult things that we've not quite seen. But then again, we saw Anakin and Padme. They made a baby, and you know,
Anakin straight up.
Actually, right now we're going to go into detail about how babies are made. No, yeah, like so. You bring up a good question. If that's most people's defense, like, oh well, it's a more adult show. Then I don't know. We may have to get them on here and like run through the things that are adult.
Well, because like, look, I just think that's a poor defense to stand behind.
Okay,
you can't say that the reason it's okay for that to be in the show is because it's an adult show. It's like, no, it's not. It's just a Star Wars show. It is definitely angled in a different way. It is perhaps aimed towards adults, right? Like it's easy to say that because there's not as much pew pew and vroom vroom with the Star Wars and the lightsabers and the ships, there's probably less kids that would like this. Fair. But a kid could watch this show and realistically it would be fine. Again, up until like that moment where you'd probably have to explain something. So again, it's just this really weird back and forth where I can't get over the fact of I'm not up in arms that they had it in there. I just think I think that they literally caused an issue for themselves by having it in there.
So now I'm curious because you bring up a good point. I hadn't thought about it in as much as deeply as you did, but now I'm curious to look it up and to see if there's backlash or if there's support, like, oh, that was good that they did this, or I'm actually curious after the stream, and or if any, I know we have a couple people watching. Yeah, if there's any thing going on, let us know. Like, what did you see in the dialogue about this? Did you see that it was mostly just, oh, that was bold, or that was brave that they did that? Was that what you're seeing?
No, I see a lot of it. They're like, it's divided. You got some people that are just
divisive.
like, hey, you know, I see some people are like, hey, whatever. If you know, like, I don't think it's needed, but like, it doesn't bother me. And then I see other people like that are just going nuts about it. You get some people that are like, oh my God. Like some people are like, I've had this happen to me before. And that's why it's so important this is in here. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's these are two separate conversations where it gets like into very touchy subjects, obviously, but like,
oh, absolutely, yeah. That's why I don't even. I'm shutting up with the jokes right now. Yeah,
well, yeah, but it's one of those where it's just I can't stress enough that it happening, no matter what the context is, right? So no matter if it's this, if it's getting sick, if it's anything, whatever, right? That happening and the potential of it happening in real life has nothing to do with if it fits, works, and should be in a fictional story. They're just two separate things entirely. And it's really weird to say, well, because this is something that happens in the world, then it's okay that it's happening in the what? Why? Like that just, it doesn't make sense. Like, again, I don't need Star Wars to translate real life stuff for me. I'm watching Star Wars because it's Star Wars.
You're watching it. Would you say more also for the escapism of it? And this is getting a little too real worldish and
it's not even that I think it's too real. I stand by the fact of it just doesn't fit with the rest of what Star Wars seems to give us. Even when they get to like adult moments of Star Wars, it just never really seems to like touch on this type of stuff. And again, it's like whatever, but why?
No,
like,
I hear you.
Let me at least finish on this. It's the same type of why as why are we spending time having dinner with this guy, his mom, and his girlfriend? The same way how I'm not offended by that. I don't mind that it's in there. I just don't get it. And I don't really think it fits or it works for the overarching story per se. It's the same thing for this. I don't mind it. It's whatever that it's there. The way that they executed it was as fine as it could be. But is this really as effective as you think it is? Or is this more just a talking subject to get people yapping about the show? Because what's it actually doing for the show other than getting people to talk about it? You could have had plenty of other ways to execute how evil the Empire is.
All right, fair enough. And I mean, for the record, as far as some comments go on that same subject, let's see. Eric said, I'd fall into the kind of ambivalent camp on it, to be honest. And then he goes on to say that was far from his biggest issue with the show. So I'll have to look into this. You have me curious about it to see the dialogue going on back and forth. And obviously, again, it doesn't need to be said, but we'll say it anyway. Very serious issue and no jokes or anything.
Oh gosh, yeah, no.
It's a dead serious subject. So yeah. But moving ahead into the trailer, I'm gonna try to make this as least as awkward as least awkward as possible. Mandalorian. There's a trailer that leaked somewhat recently, and did you or a friend of yours maybe get a chance to maybe see this leaked thing that may or may not have been on the internet and may or may not be gone now?
Yes, I did see it.
Okay. So previously we were talking about a thing that maybe wasn't Star Warsy enough. In my opinion, this thing is super Star Warsy all the way. I really like what I may or may not have seen from the trailer. It looks fun as hell. It looks like a great episode of Mandalorian. But I would also say it does also feel cinematic. Maybe it's because we have Sigourney Weaver in the mix now. Maybe it's because we have Zeb in the mix. And despite the fact that we have a bootleggy kind of thing floating around, it still looks like there's a whole lot of potential here. It looks like it's larger in scope. So I'm happy with what I'm seeing. It looks fun. I know that sounds like a cheap word to say, but it does. It just looks fun. I don't know what the hell else to say about it at this point, other than it looks fun. When does it due out? Next year, right? 2026, right? So it's coming up. And credit to them, they're getting a friggin' movie in the theater for finally.
That's true. Yeah, after a decent amount of time.
What are your thoughts on the trailer? Were you a fan of it or not?
Yeah, I think that probably the only thing that I could really think of as a
Mhm.
critique, I guess, is that how you mentioned I liked everything about it. It just looked
Mhm.
like a really cool sneak peek at the next episode of The Mandalorian.
Season 4 of Mandalorian. Ah, it looks awesome. No, this is the movie. You're gonna go to the movies to see this.
Right, and
Okay.
I kind of almost wonder, I that's I guess my biggest hope is that it doesn't leave us with this feeling of like, oh, so this was just like season 3.5.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, by
Yeah,
all technicalities, it always will be, but
the
I
develop
hope.
I get you're right. Yeah, in terms of the timeline, it will be always yeah, the development, if I'm not too sure. Did they rework what was gonna be the next season to get us here? Dude, I almost don't get just give me a good movie and I'll be happy if that's what it was originally. But I will say, I guess I would be more comfortable with like, no, this wasn't just a repurposed season. This was a story that's awesome and we want to tell it, and we could only tell it on a big screen. I'd be
Yeah,
more comfortable with that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
what I'm hoping for. If that's what it's going to be, obviously is an enormous question mark. But
mhm,
yeah, no, I mean that's what I would like also, right? Because otherwise, what's the point? I feel
mhm,
like
mhm,
if it ends up feeling like it's just like 3 episodes crammed together into a movie,
mhm,
then everybody's going to give him shit for like, so you only did this to have something to put in the theaters.
mhm, mhm.
But like this is falling right back into like what we were saying with Marvel, like where they're kind of like doing things just for the sake of doing things instead of doing what makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, with this though, at least I can say from a visual aspect, I definitely liked everything that I saw. It was really
Yep.
cool, man. How could you not like seeing Mando back in action? The Grogu shtick is still working. He's still cute as can be, of course, but it is reaching that point where you kind of start to wonder, like, how long can you really ride this train?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and especially because like you almost feel like you're obligated to ride it for much longer than you'd like to, because if he's 50 years old and still a baby like that, then he's probably gonna be a baby like that for quite some time longer.
Mhm, mhm.
So but anyway, like otherwise it looks like it's gonna be cool, fun.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole deal with like Rada the Hutt where he's like
Yeah.
he's all jacked and he's in like, a fighting pit and stuff. From what I
Yeah.
understand, that's gonna be Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and I don't think we've seen that character. Speaking of like things that they shoved into the movies just to get a movie in the theaters, we had that. Was it Clone Wars? That was like a movie, and I think that's the last time we saw this character. Right? He was kidnapped,
I believe
and
so, yeah.
now he's all grown up, and now he's he's working out and stuff, and I guess he's like a gladiator or something. And my understanding is maybe at some point he gets kidnapped again, but this time he's gonna have to get saved by the Mandalorian. At least these are like the Reddit rumors that I'm hearing about, like plot or whatever. That all sounds fine to me. I actually we got some hut action in, was it Book of Boba Fett? We got a
Mhm.
couple of huts on Tatooine. I really like huts. I'm a sucker for like some huts. They're just, I know, big slime balls, but I love that whole gangster stuff. That doesn't seem to be the direction we're going through with here, but this is more like he's Diesel. He's big and grown, so we're going like a different angle with this character.
It's not
I'm
just
pretty
his
curious about that.
physicality either. It's the fact of, I mean, unless I'm mistaken here, like this is going to be a hut that like just
Yeah,
speaks normally,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
like you said, he's voiced by what's the actor? So from, is he from the
Jeremy
Bear?
Allen White. Yeah,
That's
from the
from the
Bear.
Bear.
Yeah,
Okay,
Jeremy
so
Allen
yeah,
White.
he's gonna have a significant role, I'm guessing. I'm kind of curious about it. And again, that seems like something. I guess that's different than the TV series. We might not have gotten a full on CGI heavy character like that, just on a TV show.
Potentially, yeah. I
I
mean,
don't
to be
think we'll
fair though,
get it.
that like you
They can do
said,
so much more now, though.
but like you just admitted, they had full blown, good looking CGI huts in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, but not like they had smaller parts. That's all I mean. Like we
Oh
didn't
yeah,
get a whole
sure,
lot of them. Yeah.
sure.
Whereas with this, the vibe I'm getting is that he's going to maybe play a significant role. But again, we'll see.
No, yeah, and I agree. I think he's going to be a little bit more in there. Yeah, it's one of those where again, it's just should it be a fun time? Yeah, and just like how you said, if it's a fun time, am I going to be fine with that? Yeah, but it still is just kind of giving me a vibe of like, you guys didn't need to make this a movie. You could have just put out the next season, man. Like, you know what I mean? And give
Yeah.
us a different movie instead. And actually, this is where, not to just kind of like shift too quickly away from this, but I feel like
Mhm.
it takes us so perfectly into the next thing when it comes into being like, hey, don't do this. Just make the next season, put out a movie we would like to see. Speaking of movies that I'm not sure if we'd like to see,
Mhm. Star Wars Starfighter. Hey, let's start with the title on that. Are you a fan of that title?
No.
Yeah, me neither. I think I'll get used to it, but there's a lot of things in Star Wars, even character names, where I'm like, what? I'm not even going to commit that to memory. And then later on, I get used to it and it's fine. So right now, I'll say a big old no on that title, but I'm assuming I'll get used to it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this one? Because it sounds like you have a lot of thoughts on it.
Bro, this is one where as soon as it was announced, I just, again, it's like they are going out of their way to try and give us things that are either going to annoy us or question what they're doing, or to just not move in the direction that they clearly should be moving in. I could list off, if you gave me a quick like minute or so, I could probably write a decent list of so many better ideas of Star Wars films that they could be making. And then all of a sudden to say like, hey guys, Ryan Gosling is going to star in a Star Wars movie. Isn't that cool? And that doesn't that make you excited? And it's like,
he was Ken,
yeah, and then right, thought of Ken in the Star Wars. Now here's the thing: does that sound cool?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. I like Ryan Gosling, and yes, I do think it'd be fun to see him in a Star Wars film. But is literally that in itself enough to sell me on the concept of a film? No. And
dude,
then
they're only, you bring up a good point. They're only selling this on, like, right now it's Ryan Gosling. We got a title and we got Sean Levy. So again, we're fans of Deadpool and Wolverine around here. So he did that. He did the Adam Project.
Yep,
so he has some things that I like. So everything sounds good, but there's not a lot of substance here. And dude, do you know how important this movie is? This movie comes out in 2027. This is going to be the 50th anniversary of Star Wars.
Oh, geez.
And we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Star Wars with Starfighter. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, chat or anyone, but I believe this is set for 2027, and it looks like it's going ahead. They're in production. This isn't like before Daisy Ridley was trotted out and she was like, yeah, we're going for it. And it seemed like, I actually almost feel bad for it. It seemed like they sort of had something and then they backed away from it, and now it's in limbo again. It may or may not happen. This is happening. I'm 99% sure it's happening.
Yeah,
they're in production on it, unless a Daredevil thing happens and they're like, oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah, it seems to be a for sure moving forward thing. But yeah, it's just like, I think it's weird to get excited about it because the time frame it takes place. So it's supposed to, I think it's either after, it's 9 years, I think, after Rise of Skywalker.
But the point is that this is going to be our first time in the universe after all of that stuff. Whether you loved or hated those movies, we're going to finally get a taste of what's going on in the universe at this point. And Rey and Poe and Finn are not going to be part of it, I don't think.
This way,
maybe after the credits or something, Rey will show up with a lightsaber. But overall, this is Ryan Gosling's standalone story.
Which, it's like cool. Like, I have all the confidence this could still be a cool story. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. I just think between, again, like the time frame it's taken place in, which is an era that you got a lot of shaky opinions on, and then it's like, this is the next movie. This feels like an in-between project. This feels like when you have a big tentpole star, like big deal movie, what could potentially be like episode 10 or something really cool then you go ahead and squeeze in the middle. Hey, here's Starfighter, and then this is what we got before the next film coming out or whatever. But for this to be like made such a big deal of, my first thought, honestly, I was like, I wonder how Patty Jenkins feels right now.
Well, there's a whole bunch of people that I'm wondering how they feel right now because
of course, but
projects have seemingly falling apart.
No, specifically her. The only reason I say her is because like this sounds. I mean, they have said like little to nothing about the film. But like this sounds almost like it's just, hey, it's Rogue Squadron with a new title.
And Ryan Gosling.
And Ryan Gosling in a different
director. Yeah, okay, I can see that too.
So I mean, but then it does also make me think that with bringing that part up, it's like not only does it make me think about Patty Jenkins, like because of the similarities of what the details of the movie might have been, even though they could have been completely different stories, that's for sure. But then it's also like, I don't even know how to feel because how many projects have been announced that have turned into nothing. Like you were bringing up, like the Rey thing is in limbo now. There was going to be the Taika Waititi Star Wars movie that was like talked about for a bit. Then there was the trilogy. There was going to be multiple trilogies. Rian Johnson was going to have a trilogy.
Rian Johnson was a big trilogy, yeah.
They were going to have David Benioff and DB Weiss, the guys who did Game of Thrones. They were going to have an entire trilogy of Star Wars movies. Dude, these are just the ones I could think of. There's more. That's
there are more. Yeah, there's
and
more.
So it's not like I'm saying that I think this is not going to happen. Like we said, I think this actually is taking place, but it's just so weird. It's like, so you got all these other things. They're just sitting over to the side that you're like, hey, forget about it. We're going to do this. And it's like, does this seem like the move to make though? Like if you were to tell me,
I'm sorry, you finish, please.
If you were to tell me that the reason that they're going to stop all that other stuff is because they decided to be like, you know what, we're going to really harm down or focus and hunker down on, we're going to do like a dope Vader movie. Okay. We're going to show you Vader after Order 66 and him going out there and trying to hunt other Jedi, forming the Inquisitors and so on and so forth. And like, I don't know, something that sounds like real epic and badass. And who knows if they would have executed it right. That's not the point, but something that sounds like, oh, wow, that makes sense as to why, like, that's your next thing. But for this to be their next thing is just a little like, why? What are we doing?
I'm wildly speculating here, but my guess is this was the thing. This and the Mandalorian and Grogu thing are just the things that were the most furthest along in production. This is the best of what they have ongoing. Dude, it's just my guess, because it does. I'm sorry. Whether you love the sequel trilogy or not, it feels like for a 50th anniversary, episode 10 would have been the way to go. Or even the Rey movie. Even if you hate that character, you'd probably say, yeah, but that feels like the way to go. Make a kick-ass Rey movie and let's continue that story, because that was, the Skywalker, that's tied to the Skywalker saga. That's the reason why we're here. Or you brought up Vader, a dope Vader movie. Those seem to be things that are more fitting. Whereas it's just like, nah, we're gonna bring in Ryan. We're gonna bring in Ryan Gosling. You all like Ryan Gosling, right? Happy 50th anniversary, Star Wars. Everybody likes Barbenheimer. So,
oh gosh. Well, hold on. Ready? So,
look, Ryan Gosling is awesome. I am actually looking forward to this. I just don't know that the timing of it. You bring up an excellent point about the timing. And actually, I thought he was really good in Blade Runner. He was in the Blade Runner sequel too with Harrison Ford. He was pretty good in that. I was a fan of that one. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. So obviously he has a thing for sci-fi and stuff, and I think he's a longtime Star Wars fan, but that's something I guess they always throw out there. But at this point, Jesus Christ, Star Wars is 50 years old. We've all grown up with Star Wars one way or the other now. You could fucking hate Star Wars and still say, like, Star Wars has been a part of my life. I've always hated it, but give me that paycheck. I've always loved it. So,
but absolutely. And it's just one of those where, he's a great actor. I'm excited to see what he'll bring to the table, but like that's not the day and age that we live in, where it's like, hey, I bet you can't wait to see the next Ryan Gosling movie. It's like, again, that's not enough to sell, but you could say that about anybody, right? Yeah. If you were to be like, hey man, you ready to see the next Leonardo DiCaprio movie? Don't get me wrong, that excites me. That is not enough. Like, what's the movie though, right? Like, it's got to be a good movie. So
yeah, and he's a get for them. He's a big deal. That's for sure. I mean, this has made headlines. So.
Well, because they usually don't really get such big name people for like the lead role of a Star Wars film.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, part of me actually usually likes that, because then when you get the smaller name people, they inhabit these roles completely, and they just feel like more of a part of the universe. Again, Mark Hamill and some of our big, all these big names attached to Star Wars were not big when they started with it, but now we mainly know of them because of Star Wars. Hell, even Pedro Pascal, I believe Mandalorian was don't get me wrong, I know he was around, but I think that was more of his big thing, right? Would be Mandalorian.
I would probably argue that
Thrones also.
Yeah, I would probably argue Game of Thrones was his thing that got him really out there.
Yeah.
I guarantee you it was like doing the Game of Thrones thing that got the initial popularity is what landed him the Mandalorian.
Yeah. So,
but still, spawning from there.
Yeah. What else did we have in Star Wars? That we had so much stuff in Star Wars. But if you have anything else on that, Ryan
no, actually, that's where I was going to say. Speaking of things that we feel like, or maybe the timing's weird, or that we're not looking as much forward to. For the love of God, let's talk about something that we are looking forward to. At least I think that we're both looking forward to. So which is the Maul Shadow Lord show.
Yes,
So
sounds a little bit like a video game when you say it like that, but I'm there for it.
hey man, that would be a dope video game. I would take a game where Maul's the main character,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
So, and
But
I
this,
think he gets an apprentice in this as well, right? I think that's
yes.
what we're hearing
So
about.
this is, I don't know until we see it.
Hmm.
But do you know what the story was going to be? The sequel trilogy was going to be when George was going to do it.
Oh, yes, I believe. Well, a little bit, I should say. I shouldn't just say yes. I believe that Darth Maul was supposed to have been the lead villain, a bit older, and I think there was supposed to be a lead villain, I believe, female, who was maybe supposed to be his apprentice. So, is that where they're patching this together from? Are we pulling some of that? Because that was George Lucas's ideas, right? Oh, okay. So
That was
I
his
didn't know that they were
original.
pulling. Okay, that actually gives me some hope too, because George Lucas is George Lucas, but in terms of just raw ideas, it's you could pull anything from this guy, and it's gold.
Well, and I just think the fact that we'll be getting a chance to at least see the closest thing possible to what his
Yeah.
original idea was to continue stuff with is that in itself I'm really excited about. Because did you see the trailer for it?
No, that actually I didn't get to see. That was removed from everywhere. But I did a little hunting. Is it still floating around? Maybe.
It may
All
or
I've
may
seen
not
was some.
be. It
Okay,
may or
all
may
I've
not
seen
be
was
on
some
Reddit.
stills. Okay, maybe I'll see if I could look that up afterward too. But so was it a good trailer? I'll have to ask you on that one.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, it was.
Well, it's animated, right? We should say that, and we have a couple animated things on our list. But that's man, they're knocking it out of the park when it comes to animation. But they've been doing that since Bad Batch. I've always loved their animation.
Yeah, no, they definitely got it down. I love the style behind it. I think that dude, just everything about it. The trailer looks great. The animation looks beautiful. Like it always just manages to get a step and step better. Um, and yeah, basically in the trailer there is a young red Twi'lek girl
Mm-hmm.
who he doesn't say her name in the trailer, but
Mm-hmm.
that's Darth Talon.
Talon, thank you. I had that in my notes. Yeah.
Mhm. And so that's where that's going, man. Is where and because he says like it's very very direct in the trailer. Maul says he's just like you need someone to train you and all this type of stuff. And so yeah, I cannot wait to see how that like gets executed. I just think I'm so thrilled that there's something that they're doing that they got their finger on their pulse or their
Mm-hmm.
finger on the pulse in the correct way, right? With
Yeah.
all this other weird stuff where it's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I'm glad at least there's something where it's like, hey,
No, it's hard. It's hard to hate on this one, but Dan is hating on it a little bit. He's saying he wanted live action with Darth Vader. I mean,
I
that's fair to say though, because we last saw him in live action in Solo, and what I thought was at least a cool moment, whether you loved it or hated Solo or not. It seemed to be. I think at one point maybe they were going to go live action. What do you think?
yeah. No, 100%. I thought they were going to. I shouldn't even say I thought. I feel like if Solo would have been more successful, they for sure would have moved forward with doing like a Crimson Dawn movie where it
Yeah.
was going to be him and like Kira was perhaps his apprentice more or less, and then that was going to raise a huge conflict with Han and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, they should have just done that anyway. Like I
Dude,
don't know how great it would have been,
either
but
live action, and if not live action, then I think animated would be an awesome alternative to continue that story. Give us a nice live action miniseries. Continue the young Lando, young Han Solo. I'd be freaking happy with that. Like on a note of like animated things, we also have Tales of the Underworld coming. That's features Lady Ventress and a whole lot of Cad Bane. That looks
yeah.
pretty cool. I did see the trailer of that. That's an official trailer. That's not like off somebody's phone or whatever. Quick thoughts on that one? Looks okay from what I could think. I don't know that I have too much to say about that one. Looks all right for what it is. I think it's just going to be shorts, right?
Yeah, so it's just like with Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, right? There, those are all like they've been like that 10 or 15-minute episodes or whatever, and it's like 3 dedicated to one story, 3 dedicated to another. It seems like they're going to keep that going in like the same fashion here. Dude, I'll tell you what, man, like Asajj Ventress is definitely cool, so I'm looking forward to that. I think especially where they left her off with, I'm really curious to see what her story is going to be moving forward. But like, I love me some Cad Bane, dude. I think he's such a really cool bounty hunter. I love that we got a chance to have him in Book of Boba Fett. And honestly, as much as the show may have been like kind of so-so, him being in there was a really cool touch for me, and I thought they executed that real nice. So like, give me more Cad Bane. So yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, and actually, and to this day, like, yeah, say what you will about the show, but that was like, to use a wrestling term, that was like a mark out moment for me. With that
Yeah.
being sort of on screen. All right, did he look 100% like his animated counterpart? No, but still, it's pretty
But
badass.
enough.
I'm gonna say he's still alive too. I'm not. I hope that's not his end. I really do. We also have. I guess this would be a lot to talk about potentially, but I know that we want to wrap up for the night. But we have Star Wars Ahsoka season 2 is coming up. We will have a new Balon played by Rory McCann. There was a still shot of him looking a little bit different, but it is what it is. Supposedly, we're gonna get lots more of Anakin. Possibly not as much of Thrawn, and an expanded role for Hera. So that's some of the stuff I have on that. What are your thoughts on Ahsoka season 2 coming up?
Definitely, like that's one of the things I'm probably anticipating the most when it comes to Star Wars material. I
Hoping for a rule of 3. It'd be nice if we could get together for that, because I think we did the whole
please.
show talk
Yeah,
about
no.
commitment, because it's hard to get together for these, but we did that. We pulled it out.
Yeah, no, and that's the please. I'm beyond more than down for that. You already know that.
Yeah, John too. If we can get John, I know it's a little bit more difficult, but yeah, we'll try for it.
But yeah, because this is something where even with like we could always critique season 1, you know what I mean, in the sense of like the same way that there's other stuff that we've talked about tonight that I jump straight to critiques, but for what it's worth, man, that's just me. It's just acknowledging things, it's just noticing things. Thankfully, I'm happy to say it's not like because stuff is disliked per se. It's just pointing stuff out. But with that being said,
absolutely, dude, there's nothing we've mentioned here that I think you're like, fuck that, I'm not watching it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You have a few issues with a few things. You've brought it up and you've made your case.
Yeah, and I appreciate the acknowledgement of that. And I think that realistically, this is something where what I was trying to what I meant by saying that to get into is that with season 1 of Ahsoka, although there's a few things where it's like, all right, this could have worked better, that could have been nice with this. But I really liked season 1 of Ahsoka. I had a great time. It felt exactly like what I want Star Wars, like a live action Star Wars show to feel like. It was great to see a lot of the Phoenix characters in live action. It did for it to feel very much almost like a season 5 of Rebels to a certain degree.
Yeah, true.
And I'm okay with that because it was done very, very well in my opinion. Again, not perfectly, just enjoyable. It was really enjoyable, especially in comparison to some other shit that we've gotten lately. So with season 2 and the prospect of a lot more Anakin, just like how you were pointing out before, man, a lot of people are immediately, I already know, I hear people saying about like, well, dude, just more Anakin is just fan service. And just why is that just what makes it better? Just by having more Anakin? I'm sorry, but yes, it does. And when you tell me that there is the prospect of Ewan McGregor to come back and that girl who played young Ahsoka from last season, they're saying she's going to be back.
We all know what we want to see. We all know the flashback that we're dying to see, and they'll do it. I'm sure they'll do it, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to mark out for it, and it's going to be awesome.
Dude, we got a very, very close to like in a way, you could say we did get a Clone Wars flashback, obviously, within the first season. Right. But like a full blown one though, right? Where it's like actually like not a vision that's being had, like a true like flashback to, hey, here's a cool Clone Wars mission that you never saw in the animated series. Please, man. I mean, we've talked about it. You could just do that, honestly. Just do that as a show and you'd be fine.
I'd be happy with it. I know whatever. So you have to maybe de-age a few actors or whatever. If you're going to do that now while the actors are in the age range and they're down for it. All of these actors seem like they're into it right now. Go for it now. Like, let's not wait 10, 15 years and life happens and, God forbid somebody's not around anymore. Like, it's just, it is what it is. I would say go for that if they're going to do it now. But if they're not going to do that, then at least give us one awesome flashback. But I think Dan's right. That's what I think is right.
Maybe just a little bit.
I'll just fix my glasses. All right.
I'll say this. I am not happy about the prospect of less Thrawn.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I can't, for the life of me, I can't think of why we spent a whole season building them up and now we're headed into. That makes no sense.
No, that's like the polar opposite.
Was the actor unavailable?
I don't know, but it's the polar opposite of what they should be doing. It should be we should be getting. It doesn't have to be like nothing but Thrawn, but we should be getting a lot more Thrawn.
And he should be getting some wins. He should be getting some victories. I don't want to keep seeing this guy get defeated soundly and say it was all part of the plan to have my whole fleet wiped out and.
As a matter of fact,
find myself in jail in chains.
I hope that they're all just full of crap And in other words, like that there's more Thrawn. Because
Yeah.
man, what I want is I'd love if like the season kicked off with him and his fleet getting back to the known universe,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And him just I mean, like instantly just wiping out some like remnant rebel fleets that are just like sitting over whatever. Like he just like starts coordinating stuff right away, like taking people out like
Yeah.
mercilessly, ruthlessly, zero remorse, cold, calculated, like
Yes.
like a true
Yeah.
force to be reckoned with, to the
Yeah.
point that when, however, Ahsoka and them make it back, because we all know that they will. Obviously, they're not going to
Mhm.
stay on Peridea forever, but that whenever they make it back, I want the entire galaxy to be in shambles. Like
Yes.
things are just like completely just a wreck and just destroyed. And she's just like, what did I even come back to? And it's one of those like, are we too late type of moments.
Mhm, mhm. I mean, this is what we speculated about a while back, that they were going to eventually lead into a big movie, and maybe this would have been good for the 50th anniversary, a large movie that would have sort of brought together that whole era, right, of Mandalorian and Ahsoka, and maybe, however they do it, like a younger Luke and Leia, sort of getting involved in the battle. I think a lot of us speculated that's where this was all going. It doesn't seem like that's the direction they're going.
Yeah, I don't know at this point. It
Right?
seems
Not
like
at
it
all.
seems much more like what the focus of season 2 will be. In a way, I'm kind of okay with this. I just think
Mhm.
it's weird to divert so far away. Again, like we said, you got so much build up to Thrawn, to then all of a sudden have that just kind of like be brushed under the rug is weird, because it's
Yeah.
inevitable. You have to get back to him. You know that
Yeah.
that's going to be something down the
Yeah.
line. But it appears that the majority of what's being spoken about of the story for season 2 is very heavily revolved around the gods of Mortis. So
Okay.
like the father, the son, and the daughter. And then do you know about Abeloth?
A little bit. I believe you mentioned that on a previous
Yeah.
stream.
I was gonna say we
Um,
got into it a little bit from before. So ready, very brief recap.
yeah, sure.
Abeloth is a mortal woman, whereas like the gods of Mortis are basically the gods of the Force. So the father is like he's truly what keeps the Force and everything in balance. The son embodies the dark side, and the daughter embodies the light side. The mother, I can't remember how the mother comes into contact with
Mhm.
these god beings in the first place, but the point is that they really take a liking to this woman, like so much that the son and the daughter, they consider her to be like a motherly figure. So she's not actually their mom. They just call her the mother to fit in with all these titles and everything like that. So they convince the father to like, dude, you gotta, she's dying and we
Mhm.
don't want her to die, right? Like she's immortal, so you have to make her immortal like us. You make her a god. Within her desire to do that, because I guess the father like hesitated, he didn't know if that was like the right thing to do, and I could be kind of misinterpreting this, but she
Mhm.
goes off to like do that herself. But she does such in a way where it's like she goes and it's like this dark entity of a force that consumes her and like possesses her. And so instead of like she does become immortal, but
Mhm.
as a trade-off, she like loses her humanity entirely. And
Mhm.
now she's just like purely like nothing but an evil force. And she's called Abeloth. Right. So
Okay.
basically, there's, from what I understand, there's confirmation and that they have apparently casted someone as Abeloth. Um, like the story that they left it off on for season
With,
one, it
yeah,
seems,
with Balin, you're referring to?
yeah, it
Yeah.
seems very clear. So Balin straight up sees in the mountains the when you look at like the mountains that has the carvings of the people's faces,
Mhm.
that's the gods of Mortis. There's the father, there's the daughter, and then the son happens to have like, from what his face is like demolished or something.
Mhm.
People are speculating that Balin is going to be the son, so he'll be
Mhm.
like the new embodiment of the dark side.
And that's their way to, if they wanted to, explain away the different features. If they wanted to, we're not sure on if the actor, if they're just gonna say this is Balin and that's it, or are they gonna try to explain it away and maybe have a little bit where we get a CGI version of the actor or some unused footage. He gets inhabited or possessed or something, and then we have at least a little bit of an in-story explanation for why the character appears different. I actually wouldn't mind that. What about you?
That's, I'm actually hoping it's what they do, because to
You're
be
hoping
fair,
that they do that. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't
to
mind
be
it. I don't know if I prefer it, but I definitely wouldn't mind it. You know.
It's
Um,
what happened to Abeloth. Like when she was
yeah,
the mother, and then when she encounters this dark entity, it does deform her to the point where she has like
okay.
her teeth are showing, like it almost looks like she's smiling or whatever, and it's like she's got these like sharp, crazy teeth, these crazy eyes. Obviously, they don't have to go
Dude,
that nuts with
yeah, but
Balin.
there's already precedent for it changing the features of a person, so why not
Yes.
go for it? I mean, I don't. I mean, this was a tragic situation, but you know, who knows? Maybe we would have gotten a version of this where if we still had the actor with us, maybe they would have done some version of that anywhere where they would have had him change and do some prosthetics or something like that. In this
Mhm.
case, sadly we lost the actor, so we can just get him replaced. But maybe that would be a nice organic way to work that in if they wanted to go that way. If they don't, and it's just, hey, this is Balin, then it is what it is, and I guess we'll go with it. It is, I guess just to finish off, like the last nerdy Star Wars thing. I don't know if either of us have too much strong opinions on this, but Fortnite is apparently getting a big old Star Wars update, and I thought this was a nice goofy note to go out on because we're gonna finally get Darth Jar Jar.
Well, so I hate to break it to you, but we already got Darth Jar Jar.
Okay, so where did we get Darth Jar Jar? Was he in Andor and I missed it?
Oh, bro, you didn't watch the after credits of
The
Andor?
after credits of Andor. Okay, it was after the rave.
So no,
He's in the
but
background. No, he's in the background of the rave. Okay.
yeah, right. Oh my gosh. That make perfect sense. Okay, so there is a Lego thing that they released on Disney Plus, and it's
Mhm.
like this Lego. It's actually, I'm not gonna lie, Anthony, you should check it out just for shits and giggles, man, because it's like a multiverse of Star Wars. So they have it where there's like, dude, at Darth Vader, he pops up, and it's a Jedi Darth Vader. So he's an all white Darth Vader suit. He's got a
Mhm.
blue lightsaber. Um, there's just like different versions. Again, just imagine
Nice, nice.
Like Star Wars
There
with the
was a white
multiverse.
version of Vader in a comic called Infinities. I won't drag us into the nerd thing too much, but they had a version of that. Maybe that's what it was like. It was like an Easter egg for that. Infinities is like an older Elseworlds type Marvel thing. That's what it was
Nice.
about. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
hell
This
yeah.
is some Star Wars nerdy stuff for you to look into after we leave. But please
Okay.
continue.
Okay.
Continue
Well,
with your Darth
maybe
Jar Jar
maybe
thing.
that's
So he was in a
where
Lego.
yeah, maybe that's where they got the white Vader from this from. Like, like got
Okay,
the idea from, I
gotcha.
mean. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
so point is throughout all these different changes in the universe of Star Wars, one of them is Darth Jar Jar.
Nice, nice.
So yeah, he
Okay.
technically popped up there first, and now we're getting him in Star Wars Fortnite, which
Mhm,
I've never played
mhm, mhm.
Fortnite, but I will tell you this: if I ever were to be tempted to play Fortnite, it'd be because of the Star Wars or the Marvel stuff.
Yes. So, like, what is this? This is a DLC pack, or it's just a whole expansion thing, whatever it may be. I'm gonna
I don't know how
probably have
Fortnite
to.
works.
I have a
I've no
13-year-old. He's into Fortnite, and if he wants it, this is an easy thing. Yes, Daddy will play. Daddy will pay for it, and Daddy will probably play it this time too because it seems kind of cool. I'm a little conflicted on it. Sometimes I'll walk by and I'll see him playing Fortnite, and Darth Vader is dancing and doing goofy stuff. But you know what? And it's part of me is like, oh, my childhood. But then the other part is like, I mean, we've already had Star Wars characters dancing at Disney, for decades now. It feels like, and it is. Oh yeah, we're getting a little racial here.
yeah, oh, a white version of Vader. Huh?
Oh, was that the? Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, I just
So
figured I'd throw this up real quick. Eric was saying, I don't think they need to explain a recasting.
yeah, they,
No,
don't, they don't have to if they don't. Yeah.
yeah, they don't. But at least the only reason, I guess, what we were getting into, and I think, Anthony, what you were explaining there nicely was, it's just that if they did go with what I was bringing up, it
Mhm.
is a legitimately organic way to explain why there are different physical features to a character that we already know what they look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you're right. They don't have to. It's fine. It would be whatever anyway. But if you can make it work within the story, and it's not like some cheesy, silly thing, like this is just actually a thing. Again, like that's
Mhm.
that's what happened to Abeloth, and that has nothing
Mhm.
to do with anybody else passing away or nothing like that. So it's at least works.
Yeah. I mean, also for the most part, Star Wars seems like they want to remain consistent with whoever the actor is that portrays a part. If we see them again and the actor's gone, then we're gonna deep fake them and we're gonna do a Tarkin thing, or we're gonna deep fake it and it's gonna be a young Mark Hamill. It seems like they're not quite ready yet to just recast and move on and go forward. They seem like they do want to give a reason for it, or they're just gonna deep fake.
Mhm.
So that would be consistent with that. I mean, whatever. That's a whole different argument. But Did you guys talk about Thunderbolts? We did a little bit earlier, Dan, and yeah, we're pretty much looking forward to it. And not as much to say about that, but yeah, the trailers all looked awesome for that. Actually, I think they've done some of their best trailers for that movie.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a lot more to say once it comes out. You know,
True. Hey, maybe we could do a stream on it.
That I would be down for.
All right, Jace, any final thoughts on all this stuff coming up or anything, or you exhausted? Are you looking like this right now?
No, it's one of those where it's yeah, like that. I definitely could picture myself being just like that in a moment or so here. No, but I think at least as of now, I'm happy to say, like, I think we got a chance to throw out everything that we were discussing to talk about prior to this point. So that actually surprised me that we were able to squeeze in all the topics there.
Yeah, I think we got pretty much everything.
Yeah, no, I agree. So at this point, I guess, just an enormous thank you, of course, to everybody that had been there in the chat with us throughout this time. Thank you very much if anybody's catching the replay of this. And I mean, my gosh, if you're here to hear me say this, thank you for staying this entire time. Yes. And I mean, we don't know 100% as far as when the next thing will be, but I would agree with you in the sense of there's probably a very good chance that some of us will be reconvening to talk about Thunderbolts after we've gotten a chance to see that.
Oh, absolutely. And quick shout out thank you, Dan. Thank you very much for helping us set up the stream. Thanks also to Lost in the Real, Sean, our friend. Shout out to John. And thank you very much, everybody in the chat. Thank you, everybody for watching this in a replay. We appreciate it. Eric, big shout outs. Thank you, man. And Drew, thank you as well. Jace, thank you so much for joining me on this chat.
No, of course, Anthony. Right back at you, man. It was a pleasure. And everybody, until next time.
Peace.
Peace.